Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live video. Today it is Sunday, the 1st of June, 2025. My name is CareyHolzman and thanks you guys for joining us today. I guess that intro ended a little earlier than I was expecting. That was weird. Just trying to get my microphone on in time. It's time for us to continue the rebuild of the original streamer, the Phanteks streamer, the birthday build I did back at Studio A. That was the streamer for half of our time at Studio B. And, you know, a 9900KS Intel CPU was nothing to shake a stick at, but I just thought, you know, it's due for an upgrade. You're not going to see me using a 10-year-old plus computer and call myself a professional. You're a hobbyist all day long if that's what you're doing. And that's okay. Just don't tell me you're something you're not, right? What you say and what you do, at the end of the day, it's all about really what you do, because we can all talk a lot. And if you were genuinely on top of technology, you would not be using a 10-year-old or older computer as your main machine, and if at all, because you'd understand, you'd have a very deep understanding of the dangers of connecting that online. So the problem is a lot of people don't understand the dangers. Therefore, the dangers don't exist. So we'll let them make their own bed that they can lie in. But for the rest of us, I do walk the walk. And even though this machine is not something that I use, I thought, what better time to upgrade it than when I'm not using it? And then that way, I can either choose to sell it, where it actually has some value, more value, I should say, or to just continue to hold on to it as a machine that I can use for another project that's current, you know. And again, nothing wrong with the 9900KS. It was the highest end 9th gen that they made. And it probably still has another good 5 or 8 years left in it, to be honest. However, me being who I am and representing the technical world, it is not, it's not my place to be the junk man and to figure out how we can take junk and use it for things, because there's no business in the world that would hire me, no legitimate business would hire me to do that if they were anything other than a recycling center or a secondhand store. So if we're wanting to provide services to professionals, then we also have to be professional, or you're likely not going to keep that job. It's just what's expected, right? It's just, I don't make the rules. It's just how it is. You don't see a lot of CEOs of major Fortune 500 companies with facial tattoos and piercings. It's just likely that's going to exclude you out of certain lines of work. If you want to work with professionals, you must be as the professionals are. It's their world, and unless you create it yourself, it's their rules. So for that reason, what I do here on YouTube, of course, is demonstrate to you what some of these rules are that you may not be aware of if you've never worked in the corporate world or in IT, and explain to you why they're there, why the rules are there, and show you with justification in a live, unscripted, unedited video, right? This is how we do it. Now, I'm fortunate enough to run my own business, and I make my own rules. And there's things I won't do because they carry too much risk, or they don't carry enough profit for the amount of labor they take. Versus when you work for somebody else, they're going to dictate what your job is. And your choice is to leave that job and find another one, put up with it, or start your own job, start your own company. And this is what we all face. Each and every one of us at a certain age can either go to a job you hate because you have to earn money, because you have to pay the bills, or you can find something you enjoy and compromise that you're getting some of what you enjoy in a corporate environment that gives you a regular paycheck, health insurance, vacation, but then you have to tolerate a bunch of bureaucracy and nonsense. But then you get a ton of experience, by the way, real world experience. So then it makes sense, once you do the corporate thing, you understand policies, procedures, bureaucracies, and politics. Once you have the experience, then it makes sense if you wanted to branch out on your own to provide contractual services, essentially the same as what you were doing for these corporations, but they can pay you more, which costs them less since they're not covering your health insurance, they're not covering your benefits, they're not covering your time off, they're not covering any unemployment. So you can actually make more money if you cover that stuff yourself, but you have to knock on doors and sell yourself. Once you've been able to sell yourself, and assuming you have the social skills to do that, because a lot of people are very good at computers, are not good with people. So if you can cross those two barriers, the next thing you have to do is do what you said you were going to do. Perform the services you said you were going to perform in the time frame that you estimated to the customer at the price you said you were going to charge. They'll have no reason to get rid of you. So it's a 3-tier process to get you where you want to, if that's where you want to be. Other people I've met, they much prefer to work in corporate America. They don't want to deal with having to find the work. They don't want to have to deal with certain timelines beyond what their boss tells them. They don't decide the timeline, the boss does. It's the boss's responsibility. And, you know, they can be laid off at any time for any reason. They're okay with that, because the alternative is them working for themselves, having to go door to door to sell themselves, and then having to send out the billing and make sure everybody's paid and figure out what's the right amount to charge and set their schedule. And it's a lot of work, and it's not for everybody. So what I will probably do with the old parts, there's a gentleman I know who likes to buy my used parts, and he's a PC flipper. And the parts that are older, such as the 9900 KS, those are parts I'm more easily going to part with at the prices he wants to pay. I would not build this and then turn around and sell it at half price, any more than I would offer you $20 in exchange for you giving me $10. In what world does that make any sense? But in the world of computers, the value of the machine degrades. It depreciates every year. In fact, I just saw Amazon had an AMD Ryzen 5 5500 for $70 today. Now, granted, that doesn't have a built-in GPU. But do you remember what people were paying for those not too long ago? And now it's $70. It's like they can't even give them away. So, you know, even back then it was still a budget CPU. You'd still maybe an A320 motherboard or something, all budget. But still, $70 for a brand new CPU. Crazy, crazy. So imagine if it were used, how much do you think you could get for that CPU? Your seller, your buyer is going to say, look, I could buy this new on Amazon for $70. What do you want for it? 60, never mind. See what I'm getting at? It can be a tough way to earn a buck when all you're doing is losing. So my plan, as I mentioned, we're going to prep today's motherboard, and let's go over the parts I've selected and why I've selected them to go back into that streamer case. And one thing I will not repeat is overloading that case with unnecessary RGB nonsense. I do intend to keep the power supply and the liquid cooler, but the liquid cooler was invented before this chip was ever invented. But it's an expensive cooler, the NZXT Z63 with the monitor on it, the display. So it doesn't have the mounting brackets for this socket. But you go on Amazon and just look for the mounting brackets. I think NZXT uses the ASRock blocks, the water blocks. So right here, $17, and I don't have to spend $60 on a cooler, a cheap cooler, or another $200 or $300 on a 280 millimeter liquid cooler, which is what we have now. 240s can be really inexpensive, but 280s price goes way up. And then when you add the liquid crystal display and you put the name NZXT on it, you're looking around $300, especially after sales tax. So I will spend, and I have spent the $17 to get the bracket set, which I hope is all right. That is, I'm hoping ASRock is in fact the maker of that block that NZXT is licensed. If so, then, you know, because we've got the cooler out of the case, I'll put the cooler back in, and I took it out to clean it. Everything looks good. It works fine. It's probably 4 years old. Well, a lot of liquid coolers will die after about 4 or 5 years. Typically, the newer coolers that are the higher end, the $300 coolers, the $200+ coolers that were purchased in the last 5 or 6 years, likely have another 4 to 6 years left in them. But if you're buying the cheap stuff, it definitely statistically doesn't last as long. So just plan accordingly and don't be surprised. What we're going to use for a motherboard today is the Live Mixer Micro ATX, which I have been a big fan of these Live Mixer boards from ASRock. So we ordered one brand new. This is the new 860 series chipset from Intel. And I think I've got the web page up here for the motherboard. Yeah, there it is, right there. And I think it's also going to blend in aesthetically, again, without going over the top. Let me go over to my window capture here. There we go. So $170, I think, is a more than fair price. We've got built-in Wi-Fi. The board we had did not have built-in Wi-Fi, and that became a problem that I had to work around over at Studio B, because we were so jammed up with a video card and a capture card, there were no other slots. You can see there's only 2 slots on this board. If we throw a graphics card in there, we only have a by 8 slot left over. That's sort of a limitation of the micro ATX size of the motherboard. However, this is also a Gen 5 NVMe based board, so we can use if we want to, we can use a Gen 5 NVMe drive, which I also have picked up. We were using the TEAMGROUP T-Force Z540. This is a 2 terabyte, and this will run up to what, 12,400 megabytes per second, which I think is mostly a waste of money, but we've already got it. We might as well use it. We'll pair that with some OLOy DDR5 RGB RAM, which is all black and should match everything really nice. And what else do I have up here? Oh, our Ultra 7 processor. I think this is the best bang for the buck on the new Intel processors. I think you're paying too much on the Ultra 9, and it can be difficult to cool. So either way, I think with this cooler we're going to reuse, it'll cool either one fine. But I don't want to spend twice as much to only get 10% or 15% more power. Spend 50%, get 15% back. That's just bad math all day long. So if you're bad at math, enjoy your Ultra 9. Or if it's a business expense and you got money burning a hole in your pocket. We're trying to make the dollar go as far as we can, but we also want to build something respectable that's going to last for many, many years with quality components. And you can meet in the middle between quality and price. You don't have to buy the most expensive thing, and you also don't have to have deep pockets to build a machine that will just blow your socks off in performance and reliability. We demonstrate that here all the time. The case is no longer made anymore, the Phanteks Enthoo Evolv. This one is a little different. This is the ATX version. We have the micro ATX version. They look identical, unless you see them side by side. One's just bigger than the other one. You can often tell if a case is ATX or not, counting how many PCIe slots are back here. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's usually about 7 slots for full ATX and about 4 on micro ATX. And yeah, this is the wrong link. It can be difficult to find links for these older parts. Amazon doesn't regularly list things are not in stock, so you have to purposely go and search it out. But yeah, I think there's 7 in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, that's what we're going to do today. Like I said, we're going to reuse the power supply, which I left in the Phanteks case. And what we have to do right now is prep our board. And before I get started, let me just say hello to everybody hanging out with us in our chat room today. Hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. We're having great weather here. It's all overcast, a little cooler than normal for this time of year, and I am enjoying it very much. Let's see. Hello to Scott Loosemore says hello. There's Bajin Guy joining us. Mortant says hello. Timothy Runquest joining us, along with David Graham and Ghostly Lurker. Charlie Purdy says hello. Craig Wilson saying hello. And there's Doman 2000. Luke Greenia and Nicholas Barlow. Matt and Michael Lavelle say hello. There's Rick Lakes and Mark Baggett. Frank Jimmy says hello. Richard DeFries, 3D Everything, and Ben Laird joining us. Gil Garcia says hello. LRCX, oh, I haven't seen Larry in a while. Larry has been a member now for 24 months. He says, hey, Carey, I'm currently going through 30 plus years of old PC components from past build. It's amazing the things we save just in case. I'm all for, saving parts just in case. And then I'm also for once in a while going through that just in case area and realizing I will never use these parts because I need the space. I start running out of space very quickly here. And what I thought I would need or what used to have value, I can totally relate to that. And it's a very healthy thing to do, to start going through and getting rid of some of that stuff, donate it, recycle it, whatever you could do. In the hopes that, somebody can use it, right? It's not helping society sitting in somewhere collecting dust and not being used. And eventually it goes to a landfill anyway. So I don't even feel bad if the age of the stuff is such that I feel like giving it away would be like giving away a virus. You'd much better doing society a favor by just junking it. But that's your call, and good for you for the spring cleaning, huh? Just call it spring cleaning. Let's see. I see Eddie Casanova joining us, and Troll McTrollington says hello, as well as Andy Kane and Sean Skinner. Welcome in, guys. Lawrence Pierre says hello. Welcome in, Lawrence. I think I've mentioned everybody. Thank you for renewing membership, Larry. Now, it also occurs to me that I never got back to the original Cougar case build that we were doing that has that little spinning display dias. And I do have a board sitting here, the Z890 Live Mixer Wi-Fi, which is I believe that's an Ultra 9. That's a much more high-end board, because I feel like that case deserves a high-end board. But again, that case also got overcrowded through RGB nonsense where I couldn't even close the panels. And so I was a bit relieved when we ended up going to the ProArt instead, which has 0 RGB and is a much more useful or easier case to work in with regards to cable management. Even if we did add RGB, it would handle it a lot better because it was just designed better. Even though the Cougar case is large, it's just not designed well for adding that much into it. Putting 10 pounds of stuff into a 5-pound bag, it's not really the bag's design, it's the user improperly overloading it. That's the problem. So that will be a future build coming up with the Cougar case that will be done properly. Less is more. It also costs you less, be much more enjoyable, at least for me, to build it. And anytime you have to work on it, it'll be a lot less stressful when things are just nice and tidy and it's not all just crowded in there and you have to work around a bunch of things. It just gets way too crowded, and it also gets expensive, and it also can cost in reliability, not to mention financially. So for all those reasons, it just makes sense to build according to what you have, not necessarily to what you want. There's a compromise. And most of the time that compromise is determined based on your wallet. That's it. In most cases, that's the only thing that stops us from building a computer that's 10 feet tall, loaded with RGB floor to ceiling, is we can't afford it, and we don't have anywhere to put it. We might want it. So this is a very good practical build, and I think a much, I wouldn't say much needed upgrade, but certainly a timely upgrade for the old streamer. And whether or not I use it as a streamer again, I have not decided, but I know I'm really going to like this build. And I also know that I got a really good deal on all of these parts, even though I'm buying them from Amazon. The price on everything here is great value for the dollar. We're not buying anything that's going to go obsolete anytime soon, and we're not buying something that's so expensive it's difficult to cool and maybe on the edge stability-wise at reaching some ridiculous speeds that we can't even justify needing them. So this is very pragmatic, very, it's going to look fantastic when we're done. The looks on this board alone, they're stunning. And with the glass panel on the Phanteks case, along with the Phanteks case, which still looks stunning today, you're going to have yourself what looks to other people to be a very expensive computer. They don't need to know you paid about half of what they think you probably paid for it. Now, I'm not planning to put a graphics card in it. I think I'm just going to use the GPU on here. But absolutely, this could take any graphics card on the market, no problem. And you could easily drop $2,000 to $3,000 on a GPU if you wanted to and turn that into a killer gaming rig. Or you could build 3 of these instead of buying that one GPU. It's up to you. You could have 3 computers using onboard GPU, or 1 computer with all the same parts with 1 expensive high-end graphics card. It's your choice, and how you choose to spend your money and where your priorities are yours and yours alone. I'm not spending my money on that. I don't have the luxury of buying a 5090, and it doesn't even interest me. I'm disgusted by it. I've got so much money I can buy unnecessary tools just because I want to. It's such flaunting, and I don't know. Why would I want to like somebody who wants to boast about their... I mean, look, if they've earned all that money themselves, I respect that. But then they turn around and waste it on... You just lost the respect now. Really, you worked that hard and you accomplished these great things, and then that's what you did with it? Oh. But maybe that's just jealousy talking. David Graham with a $5 super chat says, we need a Doctor Who cases that are bigger on the inside than on the outside. I don't think so. You know, look at the mini PCs and how powerful they are. They're already kind of like a TARDIS. Let's see what else. Looking in the chat, Jack Kogelman says hello from Environment Canada. Says it's 15 degrees Celsius in Toronto. Oh, I guess he's in Toronto. All right, cool. Welcome in. Good to see you, Jack. Orlando B joins us and says hello. And yeah, I suppose we'll get started here. So first thing I want to do, we'll just move some things over here. Get into that soon enough. We'll take a look at this board. This is one I've never worked with before. I have worked with the live mixer boards, but not a B860M. This is all brand new, but I do like the way the board looks, and I also like the way the board works, and I also like the ease of which of things like installing drives and putting your parts on is very easy. So I've been a big fan lately of ASRock's designs and prices. That's why you're seeing more ASRock boards than anything else. But I'm not so close-minded that I would just shut down anybody else. If it's a manufacturer that's not really established in the United States, I cannot warranty that, and I can't support that, and I can't allow that to reflect on me to my customers. So there's a little bit of what you might consider snobbishness there, but it's really about, if I can't get the support I need, how can I offer support to my clients unless I'm just paying for it out of pocket? And that's definitely going to impact the customer's perspective of the quality of components I sell, as well as whether or not they can trust me to even pick the right components. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing from their perspective, and maybe they wouldn't be wrong. So we stick with what we know when we're selling to other people so that we have a contingency in support structure should that be needed. The more likely you have a good support structure in place, ironically, the less you need it. So those are two things that seem to go hand in hand. When you want to buy something at a garage sale and experiment with it at home, and if it blows up or catches fire, that's on you. That's one thing. But when you do that to somebody else, that's something entirely different. So we've got some documentation here and here. And we can obviously see it's brand new, sealed in the box. We've got a Wi-Fi antenna. another Wi-Fi antenna, some SATA cables, and it looks like a temperature sensor, which I won't use, because after all, everybody on the internet thinks their computer is some kind of experimental MIT research device that requires high-end cooling because it makes them feel good, I guess, when they just have standard, ordinary consumer-based equipment that is pretty hard to kill it. Like, you really have to try to kill this stuff. None of it has heat problems unless the consumer does something stupid or unwise, in my opinion, that no professional would ever do. And so I guess it makes them feel better that they go and buy these excessive cooling and excessive RGB lights to make them think they've got something that isn't consumer-based. Like it's some kind of homebrew they soldered together, put the motherboard together. It's so silly. And it's all just a game of illusion. And if that's how they want to spend their money, that's all well and good. But I would have a hard time selling that to my customers and still being able to sleep at night. So yeah, there's temperature sensors to monitor your temps that are completely unnecessary. If you just utilize this the way the engineers designed it, you wouldn't need that. But you know, to each their own. We've got our Go Faster sticker because that's going to make your computer go 20% faster if you put that on. Why else would they include it in the box? That is not true. What else do we have? Probably just the board now, right? I think that's what we're down to. So we'll take the board out of here. And I'm going to keep all the spare parts in the motherboard box. So we're done with this filler. Just put that right over there. And for now, I'll just take all this stuff and just put it in there. 20% faster. Make sure you hook that temperature sensor up. Whatever you do, this is so critical for this consumer-based stuff. It's so high-end technical. You better be monitoring those temps at all times because you're right on the bleeding edge of cutting technology that isn't just sold to anybody who's got the money to buy it. No, no. This is specifically just for you and your custom designed chip on your custom designed board that requires custom designed cooling, where you must monitor the heat temps at all times. You believe any of that? Amen. It makes you happy. I don't want to ruin your happiness. I see this stuff, and we've never had a temperature sensor in a business computer in the entire history of me working in corporate IT. It's just not a thing. That somehow these businesses are able to establish billions of dollars in profits. How much did you make this year? Hey, this is a pretty good board. It looks good, I mean. I've got the black I/O shield. I've got our Wi-Fi antennas there. Look at all the USB. Can I zoom in on that? Will the camera work? Let's try it. Look at all that USB. Oh. Yeah, you're going to have a limited number of slots. Yeah, exercise self-control. What do you need? You're not going to be adding Wi-Fi. You're not going to be adding a sound card. You're not going to be adding an Ethernet card. What kind of card would you be adding to this where you feel like you don't have enough slots? It's already built on. So you don't need more than just really a graphics card slot, and then maybe, I don't know, just a slot here for something. Maybe an internal KVM or something, but I can't imagine if we had more slots what possible use we would have for them when everything's already built on the board for you. So something to keep in mind. And then our heatsink here, this giant one, you notice how thick this heatsink is? That's going to be your Gen 5 because that does run hotter. And this heatsink is better than any heatsink that, if you buy an NVMe drive with a heatsink, and you don't know, should I use this heatsink on the board or the heatsink on the NVMe? The heatsink on the board matches the aesthetic of the board, is also bigger, beefier, and cools better. And you can save money by not buying the heatsink version of the NVMe drive that you won't be able to use the heatsink on anyway. So if it's a Gen 5 drive, you definitely want to put it here. You have a smaller, thinner heatsink here for another NVMe, and that's smaller and thinner because, well, quite frankly, that drive isn't going to run as hot as a Gen 5. That's going to be Gen 4 or Gen 3. And then this has no heatsink at all. So if we were going to put a Gen 4 drive right in here, this is not a Gen 5 slot, okay? But if we were going to put a Gen 3 or Gen 4 drive, because this doesn't have a heatsink here, then I would buy an NVMe with the heatsink and put it here. But only if I didn't already have one on the board. That's the only exception. So to put this drive in should be relatively simple. There's a lever here, and if we move it in and then lift up, that exposes the Gen 5 NVMe slot. And you'll notice it's got thermal tape above and below. And if I remove that thermal tape here, oops, let's put that down. And then we align our drive here like so. And there's no screws or anything. You simply rotate this little plastic dial. If I can, probably should have did that before I put the drive in. And when you rotate it, where it's basically at the 11 o'clock position, then the drive fully seats down and you just rotate back clockwise, forwards clockwise. And it's got a little lip on it, and that holds the drive in place. And your drive is installed. No tools are needed. Now, we also have a thermal pad here, which is protected with this film that I'm going to remove. And then using these hooks, we're going to align the hooks. Let's see, this must have gone in this way. And then slide that back, push down, and it locks in. Our drive is now installed. That's how easy that is. It's that simple. And if that weren't easy enough, the CPU installs just as easily. I always open this end of the box where there's just a little bit of tape. This end of the box is much harder to open. So we'll open it from this side. Now these Intel K processors, they do not come with coolers. So it's on you to provide adequate cooling for these and to make sure that it fits in your case and it doesn't interfere with your RAM. And so I will be reusing the Z63 cooler we had. And then in the box, we've got documentation, and the documentation will go in the motherboard box for any future owner to have for reference. Just because I don't need it doesn't mean somebody else might not want it. And then we've got our CPU here in the box, which opens like this. And you just lift your CPU out. Inside this little plastic container, there's a corner cutout right here. And if I get a thumb under that, I can lift that up, pop it up. And without touching the top or bottom of the CPU, I can now pick it up by the edges because there are two indentations in the plastic. So I can grab it by its edges. That's why I don't have to wear an anti-static strap, because I understand how static and electricity works. If I didn't, I would definitely be wearing one. But if you handle the parts the way you see me handle parts, you wouldn't have to worry about it either. Now, we're going to open up our CPU socket here, which goes the opposite way than what I'm used to. And the writing on the CPU, you see how it says, you can read it. It's going to go in the same direction as the writing on the board. Well, actually, this board has writing towards you and down. It generally goes top to bottom, from the top of the board towards the bottom. And you can often tell where the little notches are cut out in the CPU and where the notches are in the socket. You can also look for the little triangle, but I think that's too hard to see. So I'm simply going to set this into its socket very gently. I'm going to try and find the lip of the socket on one side and one edge. And then I'm going to lower it as much as I can with my fingers and let it go. And I'm going to just wiggle it side to side, but do not press down. It's sitting just above 1,861 little tiny pins that are very easily bent. And if you bend them, that's not a warranty issue. Then I'm going to just pop this little cover off, and this protects our pins in transportation. And we need to save this, because if we ever have to return the board to the manufacturer, it's important you take your parts off of it, your RAM, your storage, your CPU. And if you expose those pins, you need to cover them before shipping, or you will void your warranty permanently for life. They will kick the board back to you and say, too bad, you violated your warranty terms, and that board is forever voided in warranty. You'll be buying a new board, essentially. So we save that and hope we never need it, this piece here. We hope we never need it, but we save it. Now I'm just going to press this lever down. There's a lot of resistance on this, and there's also a little piece of rubber on this retention lever that's just there for shipping. I don't know why they do that, but you're going to use some muscle. You're going to lock that bad boy down underneath this latch, and now the CPU is installed. And so far we've used 0 tools other than getting the box open. I had to use a blade. That's it. Now we still have RAM to put in, which is super easy, and we have the board to install into the case, hook up our cabling, put our cooler on. We're done. It's just that easy. So I recommend that you take your time and enjoy your build, because when everything goes really well, it might be satisfactory while you're doing it, but then it's all over too soon. It's like you're so hungry and you're having a favorite meal and you're eating so fast. Once you start feeling full or satisfied, you're left unsatisfied because you really don't remember enjoying the chewing of the food and the savoring of the food. Then you think, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have eaten so fast. I really like that meal, but I didn't feel that this time. I was so hungry. I was just trying to eat. And it's sort of like people buying expensive tequila. You don't buy a $100 bottle of tequila and use it as a mixer in a margarita. That is a sipping tequila. That's something it's refined. It's like a bourbon. You know, you're not going to blend that with something that it's an expensive bourbon. You're going to sip that. You're not going to chug it. You're going to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, well, don't have it. If you're drinking to get drunk, you can buy the $10 tequila. It'll get the job done, okay? So, you know, these things exist for a reason. And if you don't appreciate the higher end, save your money. That's all I'm saying. All right, let me move this aside. And we're going to hold on to this piece. Just throw it in the box. Keep everything together. I work on the box so I don't scratch up the countertop. The box is also anti-static because it's cardboard. And of course, I don't work on a carpeted floor. So again, I don't need to wear an anti-static strap because I know what I'm doing. I understand how electricity works. And just know that the people who do wear those anti-static straps aren't doing anything wrong. It would just be unnecessary for me to do it, especially if I never touch the parts in a way that static could damage them to begin with. Should I have an electrostatic discharge, it would go into like a heat sink, or it would go into something that is a grounded point, which isn't going to hurt anything. So keep your hands off the delicate components. Is just a general rule that's good to follow regardless of ESD. It's just the right thing to do. That's how I was taught. Now if I look here, we've got some plastic on the board, which we want to definitely remove that. It's only for shipping to make sure that it gets to you okay. Leaving it on, it won't cool properly. It'll also yellow and bubble up, and it'll look terrible, which negates going for any sort of aesthetic look that we're trying to establish with this board. Let's see if we can get this film off of here. I don't want to put the RAM in just yet, and even though it's just plug and it's done, it's going to box me in. It's going to crowd me for putting the cooler on. So I think what I can do right now is just, this is a weird building process because for me to test fire this, I don't want to put a cooler on it temporarily. And because I've got the cooler removed out of the case, we might as well go ahead and start putting everything back in the case now. We're not using any used parts, except that NVMe drive. I have temporarily used it, but I know everything works, so there's no reason to test outside of the case. I demonstrate everything outside of the case because I'm trying to educate you. If I didn't want to educate you, I could just turn the computer so I can see it and you can't. I could do all the work, never let you see anything, and be done much faster. But then you'd say, well, this wasn't very useful because I couldn't see. So the way I build off camera isn't like this. Well, actually, I would probably mount the board first. The only time I would build a computer outside of a case is if I'm not sure if those components are going to work. If I'm ordering brand new components from a reputable seller, I know they're going to work. 1 in 1,000 maybe don't work. When I order from eBay or some sketchy seller, Facebook Marketplace, then I'm going to test everything outside so I don't have to install it, uninstall it again. So as long as everything's on the up and up, or if the box arrives like ripped in half, where I've got some suspicion that something might be wrong, but everything is shrink wrapped and brand new and perfect condition, it's all going to be fine. Yeah. So, but that's on you. I mean, if you want to build it and take it apart and build it again, that's on you. It's not how I work. But if you're going to film it for other people and you want to teach them, you've got to show them what you're doing. And you can't do that if you're working in an enclosed case. They can't see. All right, so let me grab our Phanteks case, which I've got sitting right over here. Just left in the same condition from the previous video. We broke it down and tried to wipe the dust off of it and put all the little slot covers back on there. Yeah, got our power supply, NZXT C750, which is modular with a lot of cables in there. And I think I just dropped a little bag of screws that are for the motherboard standoffs. Now these motherboard standoffs might have to be moved, so let's dry fit this, what I call a dry fit, and see how holes align with where the standoffs are. A big mistake that many first-time builders make is they don't pay attention to where standoffs are hidden behind a motherboard because they can't see them. And one easy way around that is to simply count the number of holes the motherboard has. So this motherboard has a mounting hole here, here, so that's 2. Here, here, and here, so that's now 5. And 1, 2, 3 across the top. So it looks like 3, 3, and 2 for a total of 8. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What am I missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So we're going to need 8 standoffs. So we look in this board and count how many standoffs are in there now. If there's less than 8, we're missing 1. If there's more than 8, we've got 1 too many. If they don't align with the holes when I dry fit the board, the ones I have, some of them are in the wrong position. That is the proper order to determine. It's very easy. It just takes a minute. So let me take a look in here and see how many standoffs we've got from the previous board. Let's get that out of my way. Let's get that out of my way. 1, 1, 2, 3 across the top. 1, 2, 3 across the middle. 1, 2 across the bottom. So that looks like a standard ATX standoff placement, matching the previous board that's 5 years old that was in there. You'll see the standard still applies. Not all boards will follow the same standard. There can be more than one kind of a standard. Be aware of that. I feel like there's some plastic on here. Did I miss some plastic? Let me just set this. See any plastic on the edge here? I hear it. Where am I hearing plastic? All right, so what I'm going to do is just dry fit this. And by dry fitting, I'm telling you, there's plastic on here somewhere. I keep hearing it. I don't know where it is. Also, we want to make sure that the nuts on the antenna extensions are tight. Sometimes these arrive loose. So I'm going to just set this down. And if we go to camera 2, you can see I'm going to just line up that I/O shield with the hole here and see if if I can see the standoffs through the holes on the board, all 8 of them. What's up, Mara?
You have email.
Oh, all right. We'll check email here in just a second. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can't see the bottom very well. 7, 8. Looks like everything's aligned, and you can see it looks good in the back, the black I/O shield matching the black case. And even though there's several years between when this case was made and when this motherboard was made, they fit together perfectly because standards are followed. Not all manufacturers follow the standards. Sometimes manufacturers like to create their own standards, and I find it profoundly disrespectful when they just think they're better than everybody else. And it usually is the person who mistakenly buys those components that suffers with the issues of making things fit properly and working harder than everybody else has to work because they picked a different case or a different board that followed the standards. It's not the end of the world. It's just, why would a manufacturer do that? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But since I know this fits in here, I'm going to go ahead and secure the board down. And I purposely set the screws aside for this so I wouldn't have to figure out which screws were the ones that hold the board in. So there's 2 out of 8. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. And look, 8 screws. What do you know? That one's a little tough to get to because our heatsink for the NVMe drive is right there. Could have done a little better on that design, but I just need to use a different screwdriver, I guess. Or I need to take that heat shield off. Let's see if it'll go in straight. It is right up against that heat shield. So it probably would make sense, if you want to be safe, to take that heat shield off. And these screws don't have to be really tight. We're just trying to get the board secured so that it doesn't warp, you know, especially if there's a heavy video card on it. We don't want the board to get pulled and warped. And if we're shipping it, we don't want it to break free in shipping. So we do use all of the screws. I will save this little bag because I like to use these resealable bags to hold screws for future projects. And then we're done with these screwdrivers for right now, because the next thing we can do is start working on our cooler, because I have the cooler completely removed from up here. You'll notice on the full ATX version of this case, it had like a tray that pulled out. This one does not appear to have that, but it should be real easy to get our cooler in there. One way you'll know if a cooler is going to be easy to mount on top is to look how much space you've got between the top of the board and the top of the case. On a Corsair 200R, for example, they're pretty much right up against each other. And that makes getting the 12-volt EPS power connector on down here pretty difficult when you don't have enough space between the top of the board and the top of the case. This is something to consider if adding a radiator on top is important to you, or if you've got big hands and you have a hard time getting a plug up in that top right corner, that's top left corner, that you would have a case where either the top comes off or is high enough, tall enough, that between the top of the board and the top of the case, there's a good, say, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. That's about all the clearance you're going to need. And that makes building so much easier. Now, once it's all built and put together, you probably won't even give that a second thought. But in the meantime, while you're building it, it could be a point of contention that gets you cursing. Ask me how I know. Let me check my email real quick here before we go much further. Oh, that is the wrong thing. Oh, Bill Denton sends a $50 Amazon gift card. Thank you. That's from William Denton, or Bill Denton. Thank you for supporting the channel, Bill. And Amazon apparently delivered something today. Oh, okay. Yeah. Need that. That's for the renovation. It looks good. Let me look in the chat because I've not been looking there either. See what we got going on in the chat room. Mark Leibowitz says, oh, another Sunday live stream. Hi from Chicago, everyone. Welcome in. Mark, good to see you. Raymond said, how is the system in bang for the buck terms? I don't think you can do better, especially since we already have the case, power supply, and cooler. In my opinion, and the reason why I selected these parts was I believe they are the best bang for the buck. But you could ask somebody else and they could disagree. So what's best bang for the buck for you? I can't answer that question. Samuel Kowalski with $1.99 in Super Chat says, keep up the great work, Carey. Thank you, Samuel. Parker Morse saying hello to everybody. Katrina H says hello. Welcome into Katrina. A994 says, I need to know what flavor Gatorade that is. Is there a different flavor of Gatorade that's green? Isn't there only one? As far as I know, there's only one green Gatorade. I'm confused by the question. If that was an orange Gatorade, what color do you think it is? If it was a red Gatorade, what color? We usually associate colors to flavors, so it's not like I'm going to get pineapple flavored Gatorade that's green. That would be weird. If it were yellow, it would probably be banana. If it's green, what do you think it is? Take a guess. The single most popular and first flavor of Gatorade, developed for the Florida Gators as a electrolyte replacement for their sports team that we now know as Gatorade. There you go. Squirrel moment. Thanks for paying attention to the Gatorade and not to me on the lesson. That really means a lot to me. Great to know why you're here. I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore. I really need to know the shade of paint on the wall behind you. Yeah, that's what we're here. We're here for interior design. Let's see. David Graham. Oh, that one I covered already. I think I caught up. Before I continue, if you have a question or a comment you want me to address before we continue, say it now. Mark Gaines with a 10-pound super chat says, greetings and salutations, Carey. Greetings, Mark. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the support. Paul Vercher says hello. And Mecha Cameron says, that case is giving masterclass vibes. Samuel Kowalski says, how long have we had the leaderboard? What are they talking about, a leaderboard? What leaderboard? Anybody? I don't know what a leaderboard, I don't see a leaderboard. Zelvanir Pernar wants to know if there's any budget B650 motherboards you would avoid no matter what price. As long as it's made by one of the big four. So if it's ASRock, ASUS, GIGABYTE, or MSI, I don't think you can make a bad decision. Any other manufacturer, I can't speak for. There are some brands available in Europe and in Asia that we don't have available here in the US. So, you know, for us to buy those, we'd be left with no support. Did you build Baby Beast for Doug Betts? There is a, this is from John Downey. There's an entire 10-part series of videos on the Big Beast build, which contains, it's two computers in one, Big Beast and Baby Beast. that we did about 2 or 3 years ago. It's about a 30-hour video altogether. Did you need something, Mara?
Oh, I just want to tell you, you enabled that leaderboard.
What is a leaderboard?
So you'll notice that at some point, little crowns appear with a number against the.
They do?
Yeah, it kind of like shows you your activity.
How did I enable that?
You were playing with the YouTube settings, the new ones.
I don't remember intentionally turning anything on.
It's cute. I mean,
I've not noticed anything different in the chat. I don't see anybody with a crown.
Oh, it shows up for me. Maybe it doesn't show up under your account.
Well, I'm in the studio, in the YouTube studio.
Yeah.
I would think I see it the same way everybody else does. Oh.
There you go.
News to me. Glad you know what's going on.
I do.
Between the two of us, we had to get it figured out.
Right.
Troll McTrollin says he hates the ASRock BIOS update utility. Yeah, I don't like the MSI update, BIOS update utility at all. ASRock's, I don't have a problem with anybody's but MSI's, honestly. But, you know, we each have our preferences. I don't like onions. You might love them. Zavanir said, I've been using MSI motherboards for years and I can't make myself try other boards. Well, whatever floats your boat, man. For any reason, anybody buys anything. I'm not here to tell you to buy anything that you're uncomfortable with or suggest that you should move away from a brand that you've had good experience with. That is entirely your decision to make. And I don't think you can make a wrong one. And if you do, you'll, you know, adapt or change your mind. I don't know what you'll do, but it's as good a reason as any for picking a board. Okay, yeah, someone says they see a purple crown. I don't see any of that in YouTube Studio, so maybe it's not showing it to me. Anyway, let's see, where was I? Putting the cooler back in, right? So with the motherboard back in, of course our power supply we've left in, so that's one less thing we have to do later. I guess I can go grab the cooler, which I've got sitting right over here, along with all the spare parts. I keep everything that came with the cooler in the previous motherboard box, which I've extracted and put all in a 1-gallon Ziploc container. Documentation and everything, and what we have left over will go back in that box. And then the cooler itself, I cleaned it, so it's nice and clean. And I had to remove it to clean it. At least to clean it thoroughly. Now, my concern is that this piece on the bottom of the block is for a CPU socket from 5 years ago that is not compatible with CPU sockets today. What a silly reason to have to replace a $270 cooler, or whatever it cost me, because of some silly bracket. Now, NZXT will, my understanding is, sell you this kit, but they also might even give it to you when asked, and they might also take 12 months before they send it to you. For $17, I just went on Amazon and looked for a socket 1700, which is compatible with 1861. You can also search for a socket 1861 adapter for an NZXT cooler, which will probably pull up the Asetek branded items. And we should have everything we need in here. There is a ring adapter here that some water blocks require. We've got a new backplate to go behind the board, whether or not we need that. But this is the piece that's critical, and I'm not quite sure just how different these are. It's entirely possible that our old bracket would have worked, but it may be that the screws and standoffs are the wrong length and that we're putting too much pressure down on a chip that's a little taller. So just to play it safe, for $17, I want to make sure I'm using the parts that are designed for that socket. I don't want to throw $500, $600 in parts away because I'm too cheap to spend $17 for a proper bracket. So yes, it is possible. It's possible this bracket works. I don't want to find out and risk all my parts. I just don't work that way. Not for $17. I'm just glad that this cooler works as well as it does, that I can continue to use it, because a lot of other less expensive, lesser known brand name coolers would be needed to be replaced by now. But the other thing that's important to note, again, is the length of the standoffs. Because if the length of the standoff that we've got in this kit, if those are too short or they're not spaced properly, height-wise, then we can be adding too much or too little pressure onto the top of the CPU. And this can create heat problems, and it can also damage the CPU. So this is not a joke. When you're, if I went to a garage sale and somebody had a CPU laying around and a cooler laying around, then yes, absolutely, mix and match your parts, have fun. But when I just bought all these brand new parts and I just spent $600 on parts, the last thing I want to do is try and force something to fit that I'm not certain was designed to fit, because this was created and installed before that CPU, years before that CPU socket was invented. So they don't have crystal balls there at the, well, at least if they do, they're not working right in NZXT. They don't know the future that Intel's going to change. So they'll sell, you know, NZXT will gladly sell me a new cooler. I don't want to spend $250, $300 on a new cooler when the cooler I've got fits and looks great in this case. All I need to do is make sure that it'll fit on my motherboard with the new socket. And for $17, that's guaranteed. If I don't spend the $17, I'm rolling the dice. And then what? What if it doesn't work out for me? I certainly won't be able to get the build done. And what if I cause damage? That's not a warranty issue. You just threw away, you know, the cost of the board or the CPU, whatever you damaged, instead of spending $17. It's your gamble. Risk versus, you know, benefit. And that's how I do the math. So we're going to use the new standoffs. Now, we don't necessarily need the new thumb screws, but they are nice and new, and the other ones are scratched up from installing and uninstalling. So we've got them, might as well use them. And I don't think we need this ring on this cooler, so these are all extra parts that'll never get used. Now I can take the back plate, and that's going to go back here. Paul Vircher with $4.99 in Super Chat. Thank you, Paul. And we'll just put that right there. Just like that. Then we come around to the other side, and we're going to take these little standoff pieces here, and one side's going to screw in and hold that back plate in from this side. I don't know that it matters if you use one side or the other on these. They both look the same. Sometimes there's a coarser thread or a shorter post on some standoffs on some coolers, but these look identical on both sides. There's two, and these don't need to be more than finger tight. There's a reason why there's no tool for this. You're not supposed to use a tool. You're not supposed to grab a pair of pliers and torque these down. That's not how this works. What you want to do is just tighten them as good as you can with your fingers, which is what I'm doing right now. We're just going to all 4 points here, all 4 corners. It doesn't matter what order you do them in. And it will always be loose. It's supposed to be. I'll show you here in a minute. Let's get that last one started right up there in that corner. There's no other plastic spacers to use or rubber grommets. This is a pretty easy third-party cooler install. as it was originally for NZXT. And I think Asetek's patent, I think, is expired because they made a lot of money suing manufacturers that basically stole their patent. And they were going after manufacturers like crazy. You can Google that and read all the money Asetek made in lawsuits from third-party cooler manufacturers using their patented technique. But what we end up with, once that's all tightened down, and I can't tighten those down anymore with my fingers, nor should you, this back piece is still going to move in and out. It's supposed to. The way the cooler applies pressure is when we attach the block, then the block, those threads that are sticking out on those little standoffs are going to go through these mounting holes. And then that standoff is going to pull this piece. As you tighten it, it's going to pull it up against the board. It's an ingenious design, and it makes the install and removal so much easier. And the only screws you want to make sure that are tight are the ones on the block to ensure that the surface area of the block is completely flush with the surface area of the internal heat shield on your CPU, the surface of the CPU. That ensures the best heat transfer possible. The problem is you can't see it. Once it's installed like this, if there's any slight warpage or unevenness, you won't be able to see that with the naked eye. You will tell that your temperatures are running hot and it's not doing what it should be doing, and that's always user error for an improper installation. Normally, we don't care about what order screws go in or how tight they are. As long as they're snug, we're good to go. The only thing that matters is your cooler. That is important. You tighten it down properly and that you use the right screws. Don't improvise that unless you really don't care about your computer. It's all just a joke for you. That's fine if it is, but it's not a joke for me because, you know, having a house and being able to eat, it might all be funny until you don't have those things anymore. Then I don't think you'll find much humor in living on the street starving, but maybe you have a bizarre sense of humor. I don't know. Adam says, Carey, do you recommend using AM4 for a couple more years or upgrade to AM5? Well, I can't tell you what you should do. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's like saying, should I go for seconds at dinner? Should I get another plate of food? Are you still hungry? Are you full? If your computer isn't doing what you want it to do, or perhaps you've got money with nothing to do with it, it's burning a hole in your pocket, you're looking for an excuse to spend it, these are decisions only you can make. I cannot help you with that. If you think it's worth it, do it. If you don't think it's worth it, don't. Oh, now I see a crown. I see a purple crown. I see it now on Ghostly Lurker. Huh. That's the only one I... Oh, wait, I see one. Mark Baggett's got one. Different shade of purple. Oh, Mortant's got one as well. I have no idea what those mean, though. Mecha Cameron thinks this case screams power. I don't know. I think it looks very modern and elegant. I don't know that it looks powerful, but you know, it's all good. No harm in you thinking that. Let's get the radiator put in, I guess. The best way to do this will be to lay the case down so I'm not working against gravity, because that radiator, if it falls, it's going to damage, potentially, it'll knock components right off the board. Pull the transistors and capacitors right off of there. So I want to be very delicate with this in the sense that I know which direction it's going to go in. So for example, if this goes in this direction with our fan cables going out towards the back of the case, so we can hide those fan cables, I want the hoses to the block to be towards the front of the case. And our fans are already installed. They didn't need to be to be reoriented. However, I did have to remove them to get the dust and dirt out from underneath. You cannot properly clean a radiator without removing the fans. And this is especially true if the radiator's been in place for a few years. You're never going to get it out with a can of air duster. So I simply removed one fan, cleaned behind it, put the fan back, removed the second fan, and cleaned behind it, put the other fan back. Now, there's a couple different ways we can route these cables, and I guess they want us to use these wiring grommets here just above the board, but there's also some holes at the top of the motherboard tray that don't have rubber grommets. The problem is the wires can rub up against the metal, and over time, through vibration and movement, can eat through the installation, cause a short circuit, and you could actually fry the entire computer. The problem with short circuits is you just don't know how far reaching the damage can be when it happens. It could just damage one thing, or it may cause sparks and actually not damage anything. But the rubber grommets are there to soften the any rubbing that's happening from the wires over time through, like we've got fans, and these fans rotate, they cause a vibration. You may not even realize it, but over time that little bit of vibration can eat through insulation, and now you've got an exposed wire up against the metal of the case. That creates a short circuit, and you're probably not going to be a happy camper. That would be my guess. So when given a choice to use a metal hole or one with a surrounded rubber grommet, choose the one with the rubber grommet. If you don't have a choice, well, then your decision's been made for you regardless. So what I need to do now is figure out how I'm going to get this guy in here, because it just barely fits. And maybe I should have put that in there first. I'm sure we can figure it out. I'm just working a little harder than I needed to. There we go. That looks good. I'm also realizing that when I put this in, it may be difficult for me to get the power connector and that top left side of the board. With this radiator installed, that's going to be a tight fit. So I think what I need to do first is plug the 12-volt power connector from the power supply to the EPS connector via the CPU. It'll be much easier for me to do that now than to do it later. It also means that should I ever have to replace the CPU, I will have to rerun that wire, which means I'll probably have to take the radiator out or really struggle to get that to fit, unless I buy the exact same power supply, since it's modular, and I can just simply change out the power supply and plug all the cables back in. Then I don't have to do any cable management. But it has to be the same make and model. You can't even change the model. In many cases, the manufacturers have no standard for that cabling output, and you will smoke the entire board by trying to take the easy way out and not paying attention to replacing exactly, and I mean exactly, what was there. Don't mess around with power. That's all I'm saying. All right, so for this power supply, do I have two CPU power connectors? I do. Oh. I mean, this board has a place for two 8-pin CPU power connectors. We only need one of them. But if my power supply provides two, and I've got two, I might as well use two, even if I only need one. Because the person who ends up with this computer, whether that's me or somebody else, might end up wanting to overclock it, even though that's something I won't do and I don't support. I don't forbid it. How would I enforce that? You know, knock yourself out. And if the whole thing catches fire and burns down, don't come crying to me. And if you're able to get more performance out of it, and you think I'm an idiot for not doing it, well, good for you too. I'm happy either way. I'm not involved in either side of it. So when it's yours, you can set it on fire if you want to. When it's mine and I'm held accountable, I'm simply not going to do that. I'm so strict, you know, but an unreasonable guy. Let's see, that's so much easier to put on now. One EPS power connector on there, and let's grab another one. This was a pretty pricey power supply. It's an NZXT C750. I do like these power supplies. I've seen one go bad. I haven't used maybe 10 of these, so I don't really have a good sample size, but overall, I feel like for the value and a 10-year warranty, the fact it's modular, it seems well made, it's quiet, and especially if I can get them on sale. I wouldn't hesitate to buy more of these if I could get them at the right price. Let's get that second CPU power connector on there. Yeah, you can see I've got to get my hand way up here. So if that radiator is sitting here, this would be very difficult to do after the radiator's installed. Not impossible, but far more difficult than it's taking me right now. And again, unlike a lot of other boards that you only have to hook up one cable, on this one we're hooking up two. If I had a power supply that only had one CPU power cable, that's all we need. The other one is there for overclocking potential. So we're just going to put it on because we have it, not because we need it. Somebody else might need it, but we won't need it. Okay. Then we take that slack cable and we have to sort of bend it around a little bit to get it to hide really nicely in that corner. Now I should be able to put the radiator in. There's nothing else across the top of the board I need to worry about having access to. I think. I should stipulate that. I'm pretty sure. Now again, if I remove the rear fan, that also makes the installation a little easier. I don't really want to be bothered to do that. I'm just looking to see. I probably want to run the rear fan power cable out the back right now, because anything behind this radiator is going to be tough to reach once the radiator's in place, including this rear fan. So leaving the cable run will just, removing the fan, that adds another level of challenge. So you got to pick your challenge. That's all I'm saying. So I'm going to go this way, and then we'll see if I change my mind once I'm in the process here. You don't always have to be stubborn and stick to some decision. Be open-minded enough to realize when you might find an easier approach by, giving up on that original idea and trying it a different way that's more effective. Give you the results you want without as much work. But this should be okay. I do believe we're going to be all right here. Yeah, those EPS power cables are a little in the way. However, I think the radiator is actually going to sit up. No, it's going to sit right on top of those cables. I mean, that just barely fits. I think if I were to move those cables, instead of having them go straight back, if I bend them over towards the back of the case, if they will go that way, I'm probably still going to run into them. Now, if I didn't use such a giant radiator, this is a 280. A 260 will fit in here, and that would have given me the space I needed. But this 280, go big or go home, is the biggest two-fan radiator I could put in here. And I was trying to cool, at the time, a 9900 KS, which was the hottest Intel processor at that time. So I didn't want to mess around with the cooling. Now, when it comes to securing the radiator, I saved those screws in this bag. Right? That has nothing to do with our mounting kit here. We're going to put the original screws that held this radiator into this case, because it's the same radiator going in the same case. Changing the motherboard doesn't change the radiator mounting to the case. Only changing the case would. And even then, we should probably still use the same screws, unless you're dealing with moving the fans to another side. Right here is my little Ziploc bag of those tiny little screws that we need for securing the radiator. That's how I keep things organized. How many things have I had on this countertop since we worked on this? How filled with parts has this been the day before, the day before that, the day before that? How do I keep it all organized? That's how I do it. I don't need to label anything. I just keep it all together, and then it's pretty obvious what it goes to. At least it is to me. So I'm going to start one screw in one corner. I'm going to go to the opposite corner and do the next screw here. And I want to make sure everything else aligns because, and to do that, I need to make sure these screws are loose. And then I can move the radiator to the left or to the right. Aha. Yeah, there were two other screws hidden. And it looks like that may be the position I need right there. It's so much easier to have a screw in each opposite corner that's loose that we can slide that radiator around and figure out the alignment for all 8 screws. Remember, each fan takes 2 screws, right? And since fans can go on either side, the radiator needs to come with screws on either side. Does that mean you have to use them? Well, why wouldn't you? Why is that not going in? Well, that's concerning. I don't know why that's not going in. The radiator is made of a very soft metal, and it's very easy to strip out screws. So I'm a little baffled right now why there's resistance. There should not be resistance. Yeah, that one's fine. Skip that one. Maybe it's the screw. That one's good. That one's good. It may be that the alignment is just a little off, and I can't align it that way. Now, I don't have to use all 8 screws, but I want to. I don't mind shifting this a little more to the left or the right. Where I'm struggling is there are 2 screws, and I don't know if I can show this to you, but we'll try. Right here between the spine. And it looks like there just may not be quite enough room to get the second screw in there. And if I can shift this over a 1/2 inch this way or that way, then it'll be on one side of the spine or the other and not have that obstruction. But that does really look to the naked eye like that's going to fit okay. And sometimes the electric driver is just not the right tool to use, especially when dealing with soft metals. Also, sometimes the radiator can kind of tilt back and forth like this, and that can keep the screw from going in as well. So this may require just a little bit more finesse than slamming it with the electric driver. Let's try this and see if this is any better. It's a little tight, but I think it's tight because it's up against the spine. I'm okay with that. That doesn't bother me. This one should go in nice and easy. Well, that one's a little bit tight too. Interesting. And then finally, this one right here. Now, where things get a little bit concerning is when we're taking it apart and we're using 8 motherboard screws and 8 screws for the radiator, that we don't mix those 8 up, because one may be a different thread or they might be the same. If you keep them separated, then you won't worry about something not going in right. So what's going through my mind right now is I'm thinking, is it possible that I mix those screws up? But we didn't have any problems with these screws going into these standoffs. They went in perfectly. So these are the only other screws we've got. So they must have gone here. I just don't know why I'm struggling to get them in, unless, again, it's because the spine is in the way. And maybe when I took this out, I had aligned it to the left or to the right of that spine. If I go back and rewatch the original build video in here, maybe I've already done this before when I did the 9900 KS build. I don't know. I can't remember. But for that reason, we don't want to tighten any of these screws. We want to make sure they're still loose so we can continue to have any sort of play to make any adjustments for this alignment. Normally a radiator, it's not going to be this concerning, or you need this much detail in most cases to install it. But as you can see, it can happen. And this is just, I'll tell you what, it's just right there. It's right at the edge of that spine. If they had made that just a little narrower, the case maker, this wouldn't be a problem. Or again, I can slide the radiator back more. Because if I can't get this last one in there, I don't think I'm going to force it. It's a soft material. And also, to just slide this back, all I have to do is remove the screws on this side of the spine, which is the one that's the tightest. Remove that one and remove that one. I can leave the screws over here and in here and just push this back. That was way too easy. And now, just to show you, by sliding that back, you can see the two screws, instead of having the spine divide them, they're now over to the side. Now nothing's obstructing us from getting the screws in. My OCD says doesn't look good with the spine in the middle, but it's just a little too wide. The case is not made by NZXT. The radiator is, and our power supply is made by NZXT. And if everybody followed the same standard, you'd think they'd all fit together. But, you know, we accommodate and adjust as needed. And it looks like everything's going in a lot easier now. So, perfect. Now we can tighten the screws down since it feels like no further adjustment is needed. You definitely do not want to over tighten these screws, as I mentioned many times. The radiator is made of a soft material, a soft metal. Same with the radiator in your car. They're very easily damaged. It's very easy to over tighten and strip out screws. And these don't really need to be any more than maybe just 1/8 of a turn past snug, and not more than that. We just want to make sure that they haven't stopped prematurely before seating. And when you have 8 screws, honestly, if half of them failed, you'd still be fine. Yeah, see that one was tricking me. You can kind of tell when they're not flush with the case that they're not fully seated. Like that one to me does not look fully seated. That's it. Once it's seated, you don't need to go any further than that. And as you can now tell, it's starting to look like a computer now, right? We're close to being done. The last part of this is we need to clean the bottom of this pump. I've just wiped it with a paper towel, but we're going to go at it nice and clean with rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. You don't have to clean this. You could just wipe it off, put your thermal paste on there. Actually, we don't put the thermal paste on this side. We put it on the CPU. That way we're not covering a bunch of this that's over nothing. So we put it on the CPU. And the CPU is brand new out of the package. We don't need to clean that. We haven't touched it. So there's no oils from our skin on there. If I were to just rub on this and, you know, give it the old Haktua, the cooling is still going to be okay. It's just not going to be optimal. And the difference between okay and optimal may be 2 degrees, maybe at most. So don't take this all too seriously. Again, it's consumer-based electronics. You're not dealing with something so unique and different that it requires special care and handling. It doesn't. Just common sense and a modicum of putting it together, regardless of what kind of thermal compound or how much you use. Really, there's an extreme amount that's too little, and there's an extreme amount that's too much. And in between those two extremes, there's a big wide gap of what's acceptable. So don't overthink this. It's just a consumer-based computer. It's pretty hard to get it wrong. And when you get it wrong, it's usually pretty obvious. Like if you put too much thermal compound and you go to put this on, it'll squeeze out and get all over and make a big mess. It's pretty obvious. It's consumer-based electronics. I'm gonna keep repeating this over and over again because the way people talk online, you think they had some delicate little flower. It isn't. It ain't that delicate. And if you do even close to a good job, let alone a great job, it's gonna be just fine for many years. And if you do a great job, then you know you've optimized it to the best of its abilities without the need to overclock it, without the need to go to excessive cooling and over-the-top nonsense that is all a complete waste of money and avoidable. Had you built it properly to begin with, you probably wouldn't need any of that. But ask me how I really feel. Now, when this goes on, it'll go on with the hoses towards the RAM. And I just want to dry fit that. Oh yeah, it's a perfect fit. So that little adapter kit from Amazon was exactly what we needed, even though it says Asetek and not NZXT. A little research will show you that NZXT used Asetek's patented water pump design, and so did many other big liquid cooler manufacturers. And again, if you Google Asetek's lawsuits against the other big brand name cooler manufacturers that didn't pay their royalty to Asetek, oh, they paid. They paid a lot. All right. That's that little piece that's garbage. And then, oh, I'll save my little resealable bag here for another project and another day. I don't know where to buy these. I'm sure I can find them on Amazon, but as long as I have extras, I'm going to keep recycling them. It's the right thing to do. And why spend money I don't have to spend for items I can just hold on to that I will definitely need. I don't know when, but I will be using them again. All right, so what we've got, if you've noticed, our fans are going to bring air in and out through the radiator. And we don't want to put anything on top of a computer case that has like a grate on top of it. What I like about the Phanteks case here is we have a solid top. So if I, let's see, like this, for example, this goes in the front. This is going to go on like this. There's nothing more we need at the front, so we can just start putting that back together, right? And then the metal panel that goes in front of that can go on there. And I'm doing this to show you something. You know there's a fan behind this, right? How's that fan getting any air? It's getting air through here. That's a big gap. That's how it's breathing. Some cases have a mesh front. That's where the air comes in. If you block that mesh, you might have a situation where your fans start cranking up really loud and you can't figure out why, and it's because you're suffocating them. On many cases, they have a mesh top, and if you put a radiator up there, and then you turn around and you take your motherboard box and put it on top of your case, you're blocking your radiator. You're going to hear your fans get really, really loud because you're suffocating them. What I like about the Phanteks design is when I put the top back on it, now that we've got the radiator in, the top is solid, and it's got vents right through here. See the vents? That's where the air comes in. So when I place this over the radiator, back on top of the case, this goes how? It goes in like this, I think. And then it slides forward. It's completely solid. And then there's a little thumb screw back here that I'm tightening up that just holds it in place. And now, the guy that likes to put stuff on top of his computer can do so without blocking and suffocating the fans and affecting their cooling. That's a design I can get behind every single day. The more you know. Starting to look more and more like a computer now, isn't it? And then here is our USB and does that have Type-C on it? Our motherboard does support Type-C on the front of the case, but the case does not offer that. The case is prior to the invention of Type-C. As a result, we're going to have a Type-C connector here on the board that either we don't use because our case doesn't provide for it, or if we have some internal thing that we can add, or even add a USB Type-C card out the back. But many times, if you're going to buy a USB Type-C card out the back, you don't need it because you already have USB Type-C on a motherboard that has a Type-C header. So I don't know why you'd be adding a card. And if you do add a card, it usually has a controller on it, negating the need to use the controller on the motherboard again. But they might just sell a little internal extension like Silverstone or somebody that's just two little USB, or be one USB-C on one of these little I/O shields. And then that wire can plug into the board. If you must insist on using it, there are accessories that are sold so you can. Or just go without it, because who's going to miss it? At this point, I don't see very many USB Type-C devices unless they're for cell phones, like battery chargers and things like that, flash drives. As long as I have the Type A, those are the most common in use today. In the future, if I need more Type-C, I can always get adapters then, but it's still going to keep it at the back, right? If I want it at the front, I have to buy a new case. Just so you know, cases do age out for that reason. I have customers that are still using their Leon Lee PC99 all aluminum cases that I built for them in the early 2000s, and we've rebuilt them 4 times at least with new motherboards, new processors, new RAM, new storage. Took their mechanical drives out, and now they went to 2.5-inch SSDs, then they went to NVMe, and the cases have always been the same for like 20 years. But those cases only have USB 2.0. They don't even support USB 3.0. And the customers can't tell. They can't tell, because when they use USB, they're copying a file to a flash drive, a Word document, a PDF with small files. And they have that internal DVD drive, so if they were to receive a DVD from one of their clients as like evidence, a police report, they can just read that locally right on, and you know, that's not through USB either. So even though the new motherboards they've got have USB 3, it's only on the back of the board they can use that, and they don't even notice the speed difference. So it very much depends on the customer, what the customer expects. And if you're going to reuse old parts, then you are going to be making a sacrifice, guaranteed. Whether it's USB ports, or it's lack of the ability to install certain things you want to install, or it's got compatibility for things we don't install anymore. You know, maybe it holds 8 mechanical drives. Most people building a computer today are barely going to use 1. We would use 8 because they were so small in capacity. The only way you could get to the capacity you needed was to buy multiples. Today, the single capacity of a one hard drive is upwards of 24 terabytes. If you have more than 24 terabytes of data, I gotta know, are you just pirating everything online? And for what you're spending to store all that piracy, you could have just bought that stuff. So, you know, there are legitimate use case scenarios, a lot of video editors or photographers shooting in RAW mode. But I don't run into too many actual photographers that do that compared to just the number of people that don't do that, that have this enormous amount of storage. Now, how you spend your money, you don't have to justify it to me. I'm simply telling you, I understood why we used to do that. I get it. But there's no reason to be doing that today. And all those old drives you're holding on to are just going to fail sooner rather than later. And if you've got 8 of them that can fail, you're going to suffer 8 times. And if you want to go down that road, you'll go without me. I wouldn't sell a computer like that, because I'm not the one that I'm going to be held accountable every single time one fails. And after a while, after a certain number of failures, the customer's going to think, what crap did Carey sell us? I'm not sure you think that about yourself when you do it. But when you do it to somebody else, be prepared. Let me look in the chat and see what I've been missing here. Bill Stodd said those little resealable bags should be available from a company called Uline. Oh, I thought they were available from drug dealers only. There's another use for those little bags? Who knew? I appreciate the tip. Patrick says, will I notice any slowdowns while gaming if I swap to Wi-Fi 6E? I can't answer questions of will I. There's nobody on the planet that can answer your question. You need to actually try it. And then if you have any problems, actual real problems that exist in reality outside of your imagination, we can help you resolve any real problems. The problems we can't help you with are the psychological ones, where you're sitting there with anxiety and technochondria, wondering what if, what if, what if. What if there were no hypothetical situations? Life is filled with chaos. And until you actually do something, no one can tell you what challenges or obstacles will be in your way when you never go. You need to go. You need to actually do something. If the thing you do ends up creating an obstacle or challenge for you that you need help, we're here to help. But if you've never done it and you want to know what challenges and obstacles face you, we can't see that. We have no idea. We can't answer your question because it's anxiety. It's not a question that is in reality. When you have one in reality, an actual obstacle or challenge, 100% we can help you every time. And that's true of all the internet. Just because someone will answer your question doesn't mean they're actually answering it accurately. So I wouldn't do that to a customer. I wouldn't do it to you. I won't mislead you or just tell you what you want to hear. I need you to actually do something. And then if as a result of you doing it, there's an issue that you need help with, 100% we got you. But until you do it, there's nothing we can do. You have to take the steps first. Let's be very clear on that. David Moore said, was this computer from your old place or the streamer? Yeah, this was the streamer that we were using at Studio A and Studio B. This was my birthday build back at Studio A. We still have the original community Threadripper build at Studio A, which is primarily what I'm streaming from. It's all I stream from now at Studio A. On the rare occasion I have an opportunity to stream from there, Threadripper's been left there, you know, with everybody's name on it. This was a birthday build that was going to go in my office, but then I ended up turning it into the streamer and making it sort of a showpiece when the Studio B opportunity came around. So it just happened to be good to go. And instead of moving one streamer from Studio A to Studio B, I could have a streamer in each place. But that was 5 or 6 years ago, and it's just time to upgrade it. It was overcrowded, and I wasn't able to put the rear panel back on because of all the cabling from all the unnecessary RGB. And it was a great way to recondition this and bring it back to life as a very modern build that I could potentially sell, or I could use it myself. I haven't decided that what I'm going to do with it yet, but I have decided that I did want to upgrade it. It was due for me. Again, I would not be using a computer that's 10 years old. No way. Don't call yourself a tech and then turn around and be using a computer that's 10 years old. Like if it's just a little trinket toy you play with, that's fine, but not your daily, everyday, reliable, I need this, I rely on it. No, you're not a tech. Sorry, you're just not. So for me to have a feasible working computer that I can use to earn a living, it has to be of a certain caliber of modernness, at least if I want to keep up. If I want to stay behind and keep working on computers in the early 2000s, it wouldn't benefit me to keep up. So I do like to work on the latest and greatest, and I also like to stay on top because I enjoy all the new technology. I don't want to be left behind and stay in the past and just, you know, have to catch up later, or just it's so overwhelming, so much has changed that trying to catch up becomes daunting and overwhelming to even think about how much work I'd have to do, when if I would have just stayed with it, it would have been a much easier natural progression from step 1 to step 2, instead of going from step 1 to step 10 or step 9, and you're skipping all the steps in the middle. That makes learning very, very difficult. So you can choose your path, but for me, I figure that 9900 KS still has great value, and it's worth it to me to sell it to that guy I know that flips computers, or I'd be okay with his 50 cents on the dollar offers, because he needs meat on the bone to sell it, right? But I'm not doing that to brand new builds. I'm not going to sell a $1,000 computer for $500. How could you afford to do that? And if you know anybody who's selling $1,000 brand new computers for $500, please give me their name and number. Because that guy ain't me. But after the computer's a few years old and now the parts are used, well, now we can talk about how much depreciation is there. So that's what we're doing today. And, you know, we've got our fans here that are to the radiator and our rear case fan all right here. And then we've got our front port audio cable right here, which I suppose I could hook up right now. I just tied it up to get it out of the way. And that can go right under here. There's a little place for the cable to come in at the bottom of the case, right down in that corner, this corner. And I can just plug that in. Just like this. And I'm off a set of pins. I can feel it just went on too loose. Make another attempt. I think it's on there this time. Keeps wanting to go on one set of the pins. Oh, now there's a lot more resistance. Okay, now I plug that in. Yeah, even for me, it can be very easy to miss an entire row of pins, especially when you can't see that when you're working sort of blindly at the bottom of the board. It's all about feel. You could also grab a flashlight and tilt the, you know, the whole case down and look. Probably a good idea. What other cables do I have? Oh, I've got a power cable going to something. I don't know what these go to either. What are these for? I don't know. We've got the front port umbilicals tied up back here. And these are just Velcro zip ties that we can use to make our cabling nice and neat. These are two 2.5-inch drive holders, which of course we won't use because they're really slow. SATA, to me, is painfully slow at 550. Most end users can't tell a difference, but I can. So I've stepped away from those for many, many years. I've seen people that just use things because they have them laying around the house. If I did that to a customer and I shut their business down because I was too cheap to put a $40 brand new drive in, yeah, they probably wouldn't keep me around very long. So, you know, I see people just using old tech because it's laying around. And it's sort of like eating old moldy food out of the refrigerator. Maybe you won't get sick, but life's too short, man. You know, a new apple will set you back 60 cents or an orange. You don't have to eat the rotten stuff. You can throw it away. There is a time to let it go. Or, I don't know, use it as mulch in the backyard. You can find another use for it. In much the same way, if you have old tech laying around, find another use for it. Put it in an external dock or something. If you just can't help yourself. There's other ways that don't jeopardize the integrity of your system as well as the reliability of your system. By continuing to mix old hardware and new hardware, it is a recipe for nightmares. Your nightmares, not mine. I've not been paying attention to the chat. Let me look in here again before I continue on. Lou Greenia says, I am so appreciative to you and Carey. My godson can't believe the difference. Oh, you must be talking about the router, huh? I'm glad that's working out for you. We'd love to hear your review of it, what you think of how it is to set up and configure, and, you know, does it get hot? Does it have fans that are loud? What you like, what you dislike. So keep using it for a little while, and we'd love to hear your feedback overall if you think it's worth it, the price that they're charging for it. We'll let Luke do our work for us. Because, you know, really that's the best test, is deploy it and rely on it. You know, you can make a video for a couple hours and, oh yeah, I like it. That's not your hard-earned money that that you're spending for me to tell you how to spend it. I see car reviews and they'll say, yeah, you should buy this car. It's a $50,000, $60,000 car. And they're reviewing it in like 20 minutes. And then they're telling you, yeah, you should buy it. Man, I wouldn't listen to those people. They're spending your money. That's easy. I could spend your money real easy. When I spend my money, I'm a lot more cautious. Mismatched Menace says, I rip every movie and music CD and put it on a drive. Yeah, I used to do that too before everything was online. You might still go to a library and read books, but I can just download what I want online. To each their own. Every movie, pretty much with few exceptions, has already been ripped and is available mostly through streaming services legally. And those one or two oddballs, you know, that you're not finding online that you want to rip, I get that. But to just do every movie and every song, it's already been done. You can pretty much name any song off the top of your head, and I'll pull it up on Spotify instantaneously. Why would I want to spend the money and the cataloging system to buy the drives when at the end of the day I can get better quality? I can have it everywhere I go, on any device, anywhere in the world. Or are you just going to drag your collection with you everywhere you go? Or are you going to invest in a NAS and $1,000 or $2,000 in drives so you can rip off $3 movies? Go right ahead. When we would rent VHS tapes back in the 1980s, a VHS copy of Star Wars was about $130 in 1980s dollars. We're copying that bad boy, okay? But today, with streaming service, you push a button, it's right there. You don't have to store it anymore. Those days are long gone. It's typically not something you see young people do. I just want to put that out there. It's factual. Younger people are not ripping movies and DVDs generally. That's something an older person does because they don't want to be without it. Yet you wouldn't be without it anyway as long as you have internet access anywhere in the world. With a few exceptions, but most of it, 98% of it, I'm sure, somebody's already done it. You're just repeating somebody else's work. And if you don't mind that, keep doing it. But I feel like those days are behind us, with just a few exceptions. And those few exceptions wouldn't require a big hard drive and a lot of cataloging. I can almost guarantee any movie or name of a song that was professionally made, I can find online. And more often than not, legitimately through places like Amazon, Hulu, Netflix, etc. So it's just repeating somebody else's already ripped that, somebody else has already ripped it, you're ripping it, you're all doing the same thing. And then you're keeping it for yourself, which is fine. But a lot of people do it so that they can spread that out to the public. And if copyright has expired on it, it's even, in some cases, not even illegal for you to just torrent that. Depends what it is. But to each their own. Bill Stodd said he's been running the ASUS BT10 router. That's what Lugrinia has. He's been running it since November. He said it was easy to set up. He's not had a single issue with it, and it's been stellar in its performance. Oh, I love it. Well, I appreciate that feedback. Good to know. Lagrinia said his godson had a gaming party that lasted over 6 hours and it never missed a beat the entire time. That node with the wired backhaul kicks butt. Well, that's great. That's great. That's how it's supposed to work. $1K Viper says, I have the same case. Yeah, like I said, they do make this in different colors and in different sizes. They have a full size, and then we have the micro ATX case here. I was trying to remember, you know, I had the power button hanging out the back over at Studio B, and I was thinking it was because there wasn't room, but the more I thought about that, it didn't make any sense. The reason, I remember, after a while, I was thinking about the reason why I ran the power cable out the back is I had this sitting on a shelf, and the top shelf was right here, and I couldn't get my finger between the bottom of the shelf above it to hit the power button. It was just jammed in there. And the back of it was open to the wall opposite of the camera. And I could just reach back between the shelf and the wall, which was a space about yay wide, tap the power button. So this location up here, if that power button had been up here, it wouldn't have been a problem. But that's on me, right? That was my choice to place it there. And that's how I worked around the problem. The other option would have been to just leave it on all the time. But I wanted the ability to turn it on and off besides the switch on the back, which again, on the shelf I could get to, but even switching it off and back on, you still have to power it on manually. And then I'd have to somehow get my hand between that shelf. I could have raised the shelf up, but I didn't want to. So yeah, what I did is I just ran a power cable out the back. And since the back couldn't close anyway, you know, the back wasn't going on it, so nobody knew. So what I want to do, since I've been touching all this, you know, I'll get some isopropyl alcohol, and we'll get this cleaned up professionally. Even though it makes very little difference in actual cooling performance, I want to show you how to do it the right way. We want this to run as unhindered as possible, and if that means we take a minute to clean it, it certainly doesn't hurt anything, and it can only help. It may not need the help, but that's all right. I've got myself crowded in here as we continue to renovate here, and things are messier than ever. But I guess that's a sign of progress, right? Got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, something like that. So I got Q-tips, I've got 99% rubbing alcohol or isopropyl, IPA, and then we've got some nitrile, not rubber, not nylon, nitrile, non-sterile, non-powdered, just very simple nitrile gloves. The top of the CPU is brand new. I haven't touched it. I don't need to clean it. That may be actually making it dirtier than it comes from the factory. But the bottom of this block, on the other hand, it's had thermal paste on it. It's had my fingers on it. And while it is clean, there's nothing on there. There's probably oils from my skin on there and such that will affect how well a thermal paste works by a little tiny bit. So you can see what comes off on the Q-tip. You couldn't see that on the cooler, but it's definitely coming off of the cooler. And there's definitely, it's turning black. So we are removing oils and, you know, microscopic bits of the thermal material that ends up getting embedded in the porous metal here. This copper plate is porous. It's not as porous as glass, but it does have some, yeah, look at how dark that's got. And it looked clean. And so this is how you just make sure that your thermal paste is doing the best job it possibly can, even if you don't need as much, even if you're not pushing your computer. You know, let's say you have a processor that doesn't even need a third of what your CPU cooler can do. It's not hurting anything by doing it. Now, this is going to dry and evaporate automatically as it dries. So we don't need to dry this. Just let it sit and you'll see it evaporate. For thermal paste, let me go back to camera one. On thermal paste, what I need to do, in order to mount this, I want to lay the case flat. So now that I've cleaned this area, I don't want to touch it, and I don't want it touching other things. So as I move the case back to a vertical position, so I can get the thermal compound on top of the CPU and only on the CPU. So unless there was pre-applied thermal compound on here, in which case we just attach it, we're good to go. That may have been the case originally when we installed it. I can't remember. So we're going to just put thermal compound on top of our CPU, and then we'll put our water block on top of that. You never mix thermal compounds, and you do not apply thermal compound to both the water block and the CPU. Pick one. I'm picking the CPU because there's no sense covering the entire water block, which is much larger than the CPU. We're just wasting thermal compound and creating a mess. That's a sloppy way to get it done. It'll work. It's just doesn't make any sense to me why you have a choice to go left or right. And if left gets you there with less effort and less material, and it's less messy, why would you choose one over the other if they're otherwise equal? So, given the benefits of putting the thermal compound on the CPU versus the water block, it's logical sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use any thermal compound. There really isn't a big difference between them. Very minor differences. Again, this is all consumer-based stuff. It's pretty well bulletproof. You don't need exotic thermal compounds. The people that make and sell exotic thermal compounds want you to believe. They do want you to believe that it's worth your money. I'm not trying to take any money from you, so I have no reason to be dishonest. And I've been running this business. I've been in this business for 34 years. I must be doing something right. You can dismiss my advice. You can spend money you don't need to spend for things you don't need because it's a placebo that works for you. I don't care. But I would never do that to my customers. And if you were my customer, I would never disrespect you in such a way. But if you disrespect yourself, that's your right. All right, let me get this thermal compound put on here. And this is just some leftover thermal compound from some of the Scythe coolers we've installed. A lot of those Scythe air coolers, we installed so many of those. I have so much extra thermal paste. And it's good thermal paste. I mean, it's still very spreadable. It's got enough moisture in it that it's like a brand new tube that was purchased recently. Unlike some of the other coolers we've seen where the stuff's all dry and like clay, and I end up getting all cursing and pissed off because I can't use it and I can't mix it. So I have to clean the CPU again, throw that thermal compound out, and do the job again. Scythe, so far, everything's been great. If you feel like you've put a little too much thermal compound on, just use one of the clean fingers on the glove and tap on it, and it'll just come off right onto the glove. You don't try and smear it or wipe it. Just tap on it, and it'll just come right off onto the glove. And just be aware that this stuff gets all over everything. So when you're done, if you're happy, and being aware as you're moving your fingers around inside the case, this stuff, anything you make contact with, it's going to attach to it. If you try and wipe it, it smears. So do your best to keep it clean if you care about how your computer looks, because having that stuff smeared looks terrible. And then we just take the glove off by flipping it inside out, and that keeps that thermal material in the glove. Just like picking up dog duty. Flip the bag inside out, pick up the dog duty, flip the bag around. We're done with it. And we don't have to worry about that thermal compound getting all over the desk, let alone the inside of the computer. Now I'm going to take my water block, and before I secure it down, there's a few cables that attach to this that might be difficult for me to get to, depending on where they're located. I do believe if this goes in this direction towards the RAM, these connections are going to be at the top of the block, and I might have difficult time seeing it. So it's up to you if you want to attach those cables now. One cable goes to the fans. That's going to power the radiator fans, and the USB cable that gives us the software control, the NZXT CAM software, to control what's on the screen and monitor our temps. With that, I think I'll just go ahead and leave everything off for right now, and I'm going to seat this right on top of the CPU. And then I'm going to grab one of our thumb screws, and we're going to go to one corner and just get that started. Don't over tighten at this point. We need to get Opposite corners, we need to get every one of these started. And the more you tighten it down, the more pressure it puts on the block in that, you know, towards your board for that thumb screw. So what it ends up doing is it's pulling it down on one side and you're trying to put a screw in on the other side. It's going to fight you. So don't put this one in so tight. Keep it pretty loose and wait till you get all four started loosely. Now, once all four have been started, you feel them threading down, and you can adjust the cooler, the block as necessary to get them lined up with the standoffs. Then what you want to do is just start taking up some of the slack of the screws by rotating the thumb screws clockwise. And we'll just go to opposite corners. And in the minute I start feeling the screw slow down and give me some resistance, I stop. That's when I'm going to pull my manual screwdriver out because I don't want to over tighten these. And we're going to pick one corner and just give it a few turns. Then I'm going to go to the opposite corner and give it a few turns. I'm going to go to the opposite corner and just keep going around in opposite corners, giving each a few turns. It doesn't have to be exactly the same number of turns. You can often just feel, oh, that screw's starting to get a little bit tight. So let me jump to an opposite corner until it also gets a little bit tight. Then go to the other corner and then it's getting a little bit tighter. So a couple turns past that. And that one's getting a little bit tighter. Sometimes as you tighten the opposite corners, the other ones loosen. Now I feel like I could probably take it the rest of the way. Let's see. Yep, that's come to a dead stop. Don't try and turn it any more than that. Go to the opposite corner. Let's turn that one to a dead stop now. Should be within about the same number of turns if I've tightened them evenly. If you feel like, oh man, one was really way off, tighten them all down, then back them all off a good 3 turns, and then redo those final 3 turns again in opposite corners. You don't have to take the whole thing back off. We're just trying to prevent warping it by tightening down one side more than another. And it's got to be pretty extreme, right? It can't just be a couple of turns difference. It's got to be like you really tighten down one side first all the way before you even started tightening the other side. So as long as you're within reasonable amount of torque on each side, you don't have to count, oh, this one turned 12 times and this one turned 60. You can if you're that way, but it's ridiculous and unnecessary, over the top and overkill than what's needed. Then I'm going to go back over them one more time and make sure they're still tight. Again, sometimes as you tighten the opposite corners, the other ones will loosen. And the only way we know is by checking. Now each one of these is fully seated. It's tight, and our cooler is now been installed. And look at how color matched everything is in there. Not to mention that when we put the glass panel back on, it's a smoked glass panel. So all you're really going to see is RGB of the RAM, which we've not installed yet because I still need to get my hands in and around there. And the RAM just pushes in. So there's no obstacles in our way to getting that done. Now in the bag with the cooler should be the cabling that I mentioned that goes on the block, on the water block. Like this is now garbage. We don't need anything from there. And in here somewhere, yeah. So we've got this cable right here connects to the power supply, and that's going to provide power to the fans and to our block right here. That's the part that goes into the block. This part right here. This part is just a regular SATA power supply cable. And these plug into our fans. And you can see we've got 4 potential areas to plug in a fan. And that's because you could have 2 fans on the bottom of the radiator and 2 fans on the top if you wanted a push-pull configuration, which could make a whole 6 degrees of difference. Oh, spend the $80 then. It's only costing you $20 per degree of difference, $15 for 1 degree. Hey, you know, we each value money differently, I suppose. So it doesn't really matter which one of these you use, but do pay attention that one of these, see, I've got 3, where's my 4th one? 1, 2, 3, there should be 4. This goes onto the motherboard header for the CPU. So this goes into the block, this goes in, again, this is all in your documentation. This goes to the power supply. And this I'll tell you what I think this is, if I remember correctly. If you look inside of the connections, these fan connections, one of these has 4 pins and the others have 3 pins. That 4th pin dictates how fast all the other fans will spin. So whatever speed this fan runs at dictates what the others. You don't want them all running different speeds, do you? Not on the radiator. That would look weird. But again, I don't know, why do I only have 3 and why is this one separate? What is this for? I don't know. That's an odd number to have 3. Cross that bridge later. So for right now, I'm going to bring this into the front of the case, which comes in behind the radiator. It's a little bit tricky to reach in there between the top of the VRM heat sinks and the radiator. And then that little plug right there has to go into the top of our water block. That's going to be a little bit tricky, but it was a choice I made as I did the install, that it looked like it was going to be fairly doable without much frustration. We'll see if I'm right or I'm wrong. We'll plug that in. And I can't tell which way is up on this, so I'm going to just guess. And if it gives me any resistance going in, then I'll flip it 180 degrees and try it the other way. But it feels like it's, well, I was going to say it feels like it's going in without a problem, but it only goes so far and it stops. So let me turn it 180 degrees just for comparison. And it definitely doesn't even begin to go in. So I must have had it right the first time, but I don't want to apply any excessive force and potentially damage it. If I've got it backwards, I'll break it. Because, you know, I'm so strong. Now, if I had done this while the block was out, I could see the connection and which way it goes. But it's not that hard. I mean, it's just right there. It's not that difficult. There's space to get in there. And it's either going to seat or it isn't. As long as we don't use too much force, we should be okay. You see, this cable is already bent going that way, which implies the orientation of the plug, the reason I've started in that direction. It looks like that's the way it was in before, because the cables are already sort of bent towards that direction. But I'm a little baffled why it's not. I'm guessing I just don't have it lined up right. Sometimes it's best to work with the case laying flat. Depends what you're working on. And again, the problem I have when I'm making a video is I know you guys can't see anything. You probably weren't able to see anything anyway. Now, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you had to take the block back off. You would not have to reapply the thermal compound. Just be careful not to get any on you. It's messy and it smears. But we could remove the 4 thumb screws, lift the block off so we can see it, then lock it in and place it back down. I'm just trying to avoid that. It should just snap in if it's in the proper alignment. And I'm having an issue with the alignment because the hole is quite a bit bigger than the plug, so the plug has a lot of room, about 1 millimeter to each side that I can't tell where the pins are. I wish it was a tighter, more aligned, precise fit. But that's an NZXT design, and I don't know why they did it that way, other than maybe the housing doesn't get installed precisely every time on every block. I don't know why else they would have done that. I do feel like when I rotate it 180 degrees, it absolutely won't even get started. When it is in the other position, it starts, but it doesn't seat all the way down. And it may be I'm just not putting enough downward force, but I'm trying not to potentially damage it. Nothing should require any force when installing parts on a computer. And if you force it, you probably are doing something wrong. I'm going to try one more time this way. Oh, it feels like it's going in now. Yeah, so I was trying to put it in backwards. That's definitely in. So we're good on that. Phew. Don't force things. Just in this case, it's just either it's tilted this way or it's tilted that way or it's tilted this way. You got to get the alignment right and then it seats. That's really particular. All right, now when it comes to the opposite side of this cable, like I said, we've got a power supply power to give to it, which can be any of the, we must have one here. I must have tucked it in there. There we go. No, that's for graphics card. That's motherboard power, which I suppose we could hook up now. Why not? This at least gets the cable out of my way. That right in there. And the clip is going to go towards the edge of the board, the outside edge. It's really dark in here. I can't see anything. There's no way you can see it. Well, I can't even see it. All right, so there's our 24-pin power cable on there. What's interesting is there's another SATA power cable for the lights on this case. I don't know why they did it that way, but we're going to need 2 SATA power cables for each of these, which is pretty unusual. Most builds may require 1, if any, on a modern cooler and on a modern case. You don't normally see these. So to have 2 on one build is pretty unusual, but that's because the cooler needs 1 and the case needs 1. And I'm sure I've got the cable down here somewhere, probably on top of it. Yep, there it is. And this has all been zip tied and left alone, so you don't need a lot of slack here. Basically, I can just hold this right in this position using the Velcro that's already there, and just take one of these power connectors and attach it to any of these SATA connectors. It only goes in one way, and you can break that little key off of there, so be aware of that and be careful with these because they do break easily. And then we'll do the same thing on the one for the block. That's probably providing power to our fans, if I had to guess. Now, this is our rear case fan, this is a radiator fan, and this is a radiator fan. This is a good time to make sure they're not woven together because that can make cable management frustrating. And on the end of this, we're going to find the connection that has the 4 pins and put one or the other fan on there. Just don't leave that one empty. That's going to dictate the speed of all the other fans right there. Again, it's just weird to me we have 3. Don't get that. I really don't get. There should be 4. Why is there only 3? It's probably explained in the owner's manual. I'm already seeing a problem with the cables weaving right now, and I haven't even done anything here. So let me fix that right now because I will have to deal with it when it comes to cable managing later. So anytime you can kind of foresee potential issues, this is the time to correct those now rather than redoing all your work later. It doesn't matter which of the 2 fans I use on the 4-pin. I just want to make sure that one of those radiator fans is in the 4-pin connection And even though these connections look the same on the outside, there's 3 pins in the remaining 2. I would probably just use the next one in the chain, but I could skip one. It doesn't matter. Just like that. Doesn't want to go. There we go. That leaves us a spare one. And then we have whatever this is for. What's that? Just says NZXT on it. No idea. This is for powering a graphics card. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that whole thing could come out. Unless we're going to add a graphics card, in which case we'd want to just keep it in there. But it's modular and it's meant to be disconnected. It's just people always misplace them. They don't know where they put them. So I'm on the fence. Do I just tuck it in back here? There's plenty of room. Or just disconnect it and put it with other cables in the motherboard box. This set of cables right here, this is all related to the front of the case. And all I did is I just grabbed a wire tie just to keep these out of our way. And what we've got here is our hard drive LED, our power switch, and this appears to be the front fan. There's a couple different ways we can wire this up. Now we do have a spare fan connector here. And we have 2 fans, right? So this fan could easily go and share with the radiator fans, and that controls the speed of the rear fan. This fan can go onto a separate motherboard header, and this motherboard has several that we can use. I'm just looking for one close. And even though that fan only has 3 pins on it and the header has 4, it can work either way. I just want to make sure I'm not plugging into a water block header. There may be an all-in-one header. In fact, there probably should be one. Let's see. All-in-one pump. Okay, CPU fan 1, all-in-one pump, and CPU fan 2. So yeah, they can go on the CPU fan header. Or there's fan headers on the bottom of the board, depending on your personal preference. We could, instead of running this along the side, we can take it out of the way and bring it down below, bring it up where it's a little more hidden, and connect to one of the fan headers on the bottom of the board that are down here. They're all going to do the same job, and it's really a personal preference. So I'm just going to plug that into one of these down here just to keep the cable management cleaner. Then I've got the USB 3.0 cable right here, and we have 2 USB 3.0 plugs. I think this is the easiest one for me to reach. The other one goes this way, and that can be very easy to damage the cable. It's interesting this motherboard gives us 2. Like, we have all these USB ports back here, plus we have the USB 2 headers and 2 USB 3 headers and the USB 3.1 header. That's loaded with I/O, along with the Wi-Fi too. Okay, so now we've got, I guess, just the 2 front ports. There's no reset switch, and there's no power LED. Apparently the voltage coming from the power supply will light up the power LED and the light on the front of the case versus taking it off the motherboard power. I don't know why Phanteks decided to do it that way, but I guess it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It just means we're running an additional cable to power that we normally, feels redundant to me and unnecessary, but maybe they're drawing more voltage than it can provide. I don't know why they would, but it wouldn't be the first time. This looks like these plugs, I don't know what they're for. It says connect the connector with multicolor LED strips only. I don't think this case had multicolor LED strips installed. Was that an option, or was it something I never realized I had? I don't see any LEDs. That must be an optional thing where the case had LEDs that shine down. That would be my guess. I don't see any place for those plugs to go. So either on the original build I removed them because they were in the way, or it's an option that you paid extra for. In either case, optional. Still don't know what this is for. This says NZXT. That one's got me baffled, so we're going to go to the documentation and see what it says. It's not very clear. I'm wondering if maybe power goes to the block and maybe the block is powering the fans, and maybe that's why there's 3 headers on here. Maybe instead of plugging the rear fan on there, they want us to plug the block. No, those are not. Those don't go together, so we're okay. That's not it. I don't understand what this is for. What in the heck? It just says NZXT on it. It doesn't give me any indication what that goes to. We've got power to the pump, power to the fans, and then onto the USB CPU fan header. That's all there should be, in a USB cable. I don't know what's that for. Nothing. It does not specifically mention that, or even, wait a minute, what's this say? Nope. Controlling RGB for optional lighting control. Oh, yeah, we're not using it. Okay. Phew. Yeah, that's to control some optional RGB stuff, I guess. All right, we don't need it. So where was I? Power switch, hard drive LED. Let's come around these cables. And go right up through the bottom here. Where are we going? Right about there. Yep, that's the right place. And again, I have to turn this towards me so I can see. It's really dark. Power switch should go right there. Boy, they put the SATA connectors right over it, so that's a difficult thing to see. Even if the motherboard were out of the case, it would still be hard to see that. And then we'll run our hard drive LED right up through the same hole. And that's going to go on that same connector right behind the SATA connector on this board on the bottom 2 rows. On the bottom pin, first. This looks like it's wired backwards. That's bizarre. It shows the positive cable on the negative side. Why did they do that? Well, I'm going to put the positive cable on the positive side and see if the LED works. If not, you just got to flip the cable the other way. It won't hurt anything. I think that we're ready to turn it on. I just have the CPU power connection. Well, it's really just a monitor, but that's this cable right here. It's going to go right where it says, you can say all-in-one pump or CPU fan. I don't know why the all-in-one pump is a different color. Yeah, well, I suppose we'll just plug it into all-in-one pump. Go right on there. And then it probably helps if we put some RAM in there, right? That'd be the last thing. And to put the RAM in, we're going to lay it flat. And the RAM is super easy. Famous last words. Super easy to put in there. Keep that tied up. Making a mess over here, Carey. That's how you know work is getting done, son. Brand new RAM. Ta-da! Doesn't matter which one we start with. We're going to skip using the slot closest to the CPU for dual channel. And does it go in this way? No, I'm going to turn it the other way. Put it in this way. There's 16 gigs, and this one should also be 16 gigs. Right there. Right there. Make sure we're in the track before pushing down hard on it to seat it, or you could break the track or break the RAM. Don't use excessive force. Things should go nice and easy. Once you can verify you're in the track, then you can push down with one thumb, then the other thumb. And you will hear a click almost like popping knuckles when it's seated correctly. If you don't hear that, it's probably not seated correctly. If it looks seated correctly, take it back out, do it again. You'll know it when you hear it. If you wonder, then you did it wrong, because it'll be pretty obvious. This thing got really heavy. Ugh. But what a cleaner install. Also, the cable management is going to be much easier here with that little bundle off to the side. It's going to be so much easier to manage this. Plus, I have all these little Velcro ties I can use as, just to help things out. And let's plug it in, turn it on, and see what it does. How about that? I hope I did it all correctly. There's one way to find out. Remember, we never test fired the board. This will be the first time with that CPU, that RAM, and the first time this board has ever been powered on. None of that's ever been powered on before. The NVMe drive was used, but it should be wiped clean and reset. If I did everything correctly, it should just work. Will it work? There's only one way to know. How would you like it if I did that to you? If I rebuild this, am I going to have any problems? Well, I don't know. Rebuild it and let us know, right? So here we go. This, the results are what matter, not the speculation. So the power supply is in the off position, and I'm just looking for cables to plug in. I'm not going to plug in internet. I'm only going to plug in what we need. So I need an HDMI cable right here. We'll plug into the back of the motherboard on that using our onboard video. And I need a keyboard and a mouse, which I have right down here. And I'm running out of desk space real quick, aren't I? These spare parts will go with the motherboard box. These parts we don't need. Might be a sticker in there, I don't know. But that'll go in the motherboard box. The gloves and stuff, that'll go, you put it back on the shelf. We'll turn this on, plug our keyboard and mouse dongle in. Let's just plug it in the front to see if our front ports work. Kill two birds with one stone here. Plug that in right there. And keyboard is turned on. Yeah. Mouse is turned on. Yes. Power switch on. Ooh, we're getting some LEDs. 3, 2, 1. Oh, fans are turning. Block is initializing. And let's go to our HDMI output of this to see if we get a post. So far, nothing, but that first turn on could take a second. Let me put my camera in the corner for just a moment while we're waiting. Hopefully we're not missing any. Yeah, be patient on your first boot. It does take a minute. We can rotate the screen with the NZXT software and change that screen to like my spinning logo, but that's after we get the drive, the operating system installed, all the drivers put in. Then the NZXT CAM software can be downloaded, installed, and configured. And of course, we can run things like Cinebench and Prime 95 if we want to really torture the heck out of the CPU to make sure our cooler is installed correctly. Because I know the cooler can more than adequately cool this chip. It's a bit overkill for the cooler. Now here it shows our all-in-one pump speed, and if we close out camera 1, no sooner than I turned it on, we get details about the board. Now you're going to notice the date and time is about 12 hours ahead. That's because this was built in probably Taiwan. And there's a time difference between Taiwan and Arizona, and I think it's 12 hours. This clock is not wrong. So we're not going to fix it. There's nothing here we need to fix. That is a correct clock. The version of BIOS we have is 1.06. Now, I don't know if there's a newer version, but I did download the latest version. I just can't tell you what it is because I can't remember. And I put it on my flash drive. So I'm going to take the flash drive. I'm going to plug it into any USB port here. And we'll see in the file name if it's newer than 1.06, because the latest BIOS on this for some reason is 2 months old, which feels old to me. That rear fan is turning. Oh, we have a fan blockage. These wires were getting caught up in the fan, preventing that fan from turning. That is a rookie mistake. And that is corrected with proper cable management, where you make sure to pull all your slack to the back and then wire tie it so it doesn't move back to the front and interfere with the fan again. But so far, we're fine. We're showing a 29 degrees Celsius temp, which is really, really cool, literally and figuratively. And if I turn off camera 1 again, and let's navigate over, oh, let's see here. We're going to go to Instant Flash down here. So remember, this said, what version did it say? 1.06, and what do we have on the flash drive? We have 1.11. That's much newer. So I'll hit update, and yes, and we'll go ahead and let this update. Now, all you have to do is make sure you leave the darn thing alone if you want this to be successful. This isn't the nail-biting, hope it works technology of the 1990s. After pressing enter, the system will automatically reboot. Okay, well, I'll hit enter then. Enter did nothing. Click OK. When it reboots, it's going to complete the BIOS update process. It only started the BIOS update. And different motherboards and different makes of models of boards from the same manufacturer may not go through the same update process. So don't expect to see exactly what I'm showing you unless you're working with exactly the same parts, okay? But you will know when it's done. So leave it alone until it's done, unless it instructs you on your screen, like to click enter to continue, in which case, follow the instructions on the screen. You've asked it to do something, now get out of its way and let it work. So that's what we're going to do. And we will be 100% successful if you follow those basic rules of staying out of its way. It's not like it decided to do this, you told it to. So let it do what you've asked it to do. And if you do, It'll always work, always. The secret of being successful is not getting in your own way. All right, I'm just cleaning up some things while we're waiting. I'm getting rid of the Q-tips and the nitrile glove. Try and do two things at the same time here. And I think this is a much more elegant build. Like, to me, this is more classy than all that RGB it had. But, you know, look, viewers may click on the video because the thumbnail has all kinds of RGB on it, and they go, ooh, let me see. And if that's what works to get me viewers, well, what choice do I have? Just not have the viewers? But now, enough of that. Our current streamer has enough RGB in it too, by the way. And I'm not opposed to RGB. I'm just opposed to too much RGB. You know, moderation in all things. Let's not go overboard. Let's see, our cooler parts can go back in the motherboard box. I am so glad those components for the new socket were compatible with our cooler. Definitely worth the $17. And if I put myself back up on camera 1, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat room here. If you have questions or comments, we're going to pretty much wrap it up for today because we're getting on 3 hours, right? We're about 2 hours and 45 minutes in today's broadcast. So I want to go ahead and wrap this up in the next 15 minutes. And I want to give you an opportunity to interact with me if you have a comment or question. This will be the time. I will do the Windows install tonight off camera along with drivers. That's all pretty routine stuff. And I'll get the NZXT software configured. I'll get Windows activated with our friends over at SCD Keys. I pay the same price you guys do. I go to SCD Keys. I will buy a Windows 10 Pro key because it's a few dollars less than a Windows 11 Pro key, but I install Windows 11 Pro. I don't select a key during the install. Once Windows 11 Pro is installed, I do all the drivers, all the updates. I make sure that everything works, nothing has to be returned, because the key will stay tied to the motherboard forever. So it's one of the last things I'll do. I will enter a Windows 10 Pro key into Windows 11 Pro and it will activate. We're done. We'll never need the key ever again. It will stay tied to the motherboard indefinitely. That cost me $15.72 after using coupon code CAREY. I've got other videos that demonstrate it. If you're stuck, simply buy the key and the instructions will arrive in email. If you still are stuck, reach out to us. But it's pretty straightforward. Save it for the last thing you do. Make sure everything is done and working correctly. Even take a few days and test everything out. In fact, you never have to activate Windows. It will continue to run. It just won't let you personalize things like wallpapers and icons on the desktop until you activate, and you get a little watermark that will appear saying, you know, you're running an unactivated copy. It's maybe annoying, but I know people that have a computer that's never had a product key, and the watermark and the ability to personalize it doesn't matter to them. And I've offered to give them a product key and they could care less. It in no way impacts your ability to use Windows. And a Windows 10 product key, Windows 10 Pro, will work to activate Windows 11 Pro, at least until the end of Windows 10 support in October. Microsoft will eventually end that free upgrade. So if there was ever a reason to take advantage of getting Windows 11 today, it's if you already have Windows 10 Pro. It is free for you. The product key is free. Your Windows 10 Pro key you've got now, you can use it again to activate Windows 11 Pro one time. And it will forever stay tied to whatever motherboard you activate it to. So choose wisely. Our BIOS update is obviously done. There's version 1.11 now installed, which means I'm done with the flash drive and I can erase this file. And then I can plug my Windows 11 install media that we covered making one with Rufus, plug that into any USB port back here. We have a lot to pick from. I'll pick one of the blue ones because they're faster. And up at the front of this case, you'll see we've got a light right here, which I'm guessing maybe that's why it needs a power cable from the power supply. And then above our switch, we have a blue light. So you can really tell when this is on. Now, as for the hard drive activity light, I don't know where you're supposed to see hard drive activity from. However, we don't yet have an operating system installed. So what I want to do at this point is simply turn the machine off. And when I turn it back on, it will automatically boot to that Windows 11 flash drive because there's nothing else it can boot to. I will not change anything in the BIOS. The motherboard defaults are where they're supposed to be. Unless you want to work harder than you need to, then knock yourself out. I will not change the date. I will not change the time. I will not change the boot order because you don't need to anymore. This is not 2001. All right, this is how things work today. So just, it doesn't matter that the clock is off. That's irrelevant. Once Windows is installed and once we connect to the internet time server will synchronize your date and time for you. You never have to touch it. And in doing so, you risk fat finger it, and people fat finger it all the time. I've demonstrated it at least a half a dozen times on this channel where we buy returned motherboards from Amazon and see the dates are 30+ years off. Ridiculous. All right, you know it didn't come from the factory more than a few hours one way or the other. I am a little curious why we're hesitating here on the boot up sequence. I expected it to boot by now. It seems hung up on something. However, I'm looking at our liquid temperature here. It says 33, so we're good on CPU temp. We're not having any heat issues. Our fans are turning, everything looks great. And for some reason, it's waiting on something. And I'm not sure what it's waiting for. And we can either continue to wait for it or we can override it. Like it says, press F11 for the boot menu. If I hit F11 now, will it even respond? It seems like it's like, hold on, I'm busy. I don't know what it's doing that would take this long. That's very unusual. I'm going to turn it back off. And for the sake of experimentation, I'm just going to move my flash drive, my Windows 11 media. Yeah, I want to make sure I grab the right one. And I'm going to move it to pretty much any other USB port just to see if that makes any difference. And I also want to make sure I fully seat the flash drive. These are brand new USB ports on this motherboard and they can be a little tight, and I might not have had it plugged in all the way. So it could be user error. First thing you should assume when things don't go right, what did you miss? Let's see if this makes any difference at all. I mean, we've already gotten past the little menu screen there. But I'm looking for the toilet bowl to flush. I'm looking for that little circle. There it goes. That was probably user error. Usually is. Steve Perry says if the company closes, then all their keys go invalid. And if a meteor strikes you in the head, you'd be dead. And if you got cancer tomorrow, you'd have to undergo chemo. And if the food you ate wasn't cooked properly, you could get food poisoning. And if, how long do you want to play this game? If you have any real world examples you'd like to share for us that actually meet reality beyond your imagination, you may be proving a valid point or have a valid concern. Otherwise, the fact that you have an active imagination, so just searching for negativity, that's all you're going to find is negativity. If you search for positivity, you will find positivity. What you choose to see exists because you choose to see it. And if you choose to see negative, then all you'll see is negative. So if that's how you want to go through life, constantly looking over your shoulder and flinching at everything that potentially poses danger, and you don't appreciate the beauty of the day, the smell of the roses, these are choices we each make. But if you have any actual concerns that are potentially relevant and imminent, we would love to hear them. But your imagination is based on the fact that you will never die. Everything on this planet is temporary. Who's going first? All right? It awaits us all. And you'll have much bigger fish to fry than worrying about your product key. I don't think Microsoft's going anywhere for a while. I don't know if that had to do with Microsoft or you guys are talking about something else, but you could say that's true about a Tesla. Tesla closes business. How are you going to start your car? There'll be workarounds. Don't worry about it. The reason we don't have workarounds is we don't need them. If and when we need them, it'll be solved. You don't have to worry about it. All right, let's get our install started. And in the meantime, I'll look and see if you have any comments, questions, and I'll do my best to answer them, and we can wrap it up for today. Let's just get this kicked off first and foremost. I'm going to select I don't have a product key, but when I do buy one, it will be for Windows Pro. So I want to make sure I select Windows Pro, and it should ask where I want to install. It should see my Generation 5 NVMe. Should appear here as drive 0. Yep, drive 0, unallocated space, 2 terabytes, perfect. The other disk 1, that's the flash drive, that's our Windows Media installer. Phil Stott said if the Vogons arrive, we'll all be destroyed to make way for a hyperspace bypass. Hey, those documents have been available the whole time at the Interstellar Space Library, whatever it was called. It's not my concern that you couldn't be bothered to go there and see these plans have been in place, and you could have objected for years. They were in place. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is a great movie. Let's see, ready to install, very good. Hit install, and we're off to the races. So this is going to partition and format that NVMe drive, and then of course copy over everything it needs to install Windows. Once that's done, I'll do all the Windows updates and drivers, the NZXT CAM software, get my logo on there, you know, maybe make any adjustments to the RGB. Cable management, panels go on, we're done. And we've got a really nice brand new system here. Lots of I/O on it, lots of USB ports, and it's got Wi-Fi as well. So really not much more you can do to this other than add a graphics card if that's something that you would want to invest in. That will likely cost you more than the whole computer if it's a good graphics card. Alpha Centauri. 50 years on Alpha Centauri. Is that where the paperwork's been? Yeah, see, I haven't been there. I haven't looked. Phil Stodd says he does have his towel, so he's ready. That and some peanuts, you're good to go. Steve Perry says those Windows cheap keys are corporate ones. No, they're not. Prove it. Go buy right now, Steve. Either go buy a key and show me that that's a corporate key, or don't make false accusations. I might as well say false accusations about you. At what point do you feel insulted and disrespected because I don't know you, but I'm going to make assumptions about you because of the way you're talking in the chat room, that you must be 6 years old, be unsupervised, and you have no experience from buying product keys from SCD keys. Because it appears to me all of these things are true. As it appears to you, what you're saying is true. But appearances and reality are often very different things. When you want to provide proof of what you're saying, I'll be more interested in what you have to say. But if you just want to sit here and make false statements about things you have no experience over, specifically with SCD keys, I will not tolerate it, and I will kick you from the chat room permanently. That is absolutely disrespectful and irresponsible to go around spreading false information. So if you have proof, show it to me. Otherwise, don't make statements like that. Not here. We don't tolerate it. And I will do you the favor, and I won't make statements about you that aren't true. And then you get what you give. Barry Klein says since he's popped out the chat room into its own window, he hasn't had any more browser crashes. Yeah, we're kind of keeping an eye on that as a potential solution. I appreciate the update on it. I haven't done it myself. Martin says, please see my earlier recommendation post. I'm not going to dig through a chat room on a treasure hunt trying to find your post. You can copy and paste and present it to me. I am not going to go. We have over 200 people watching this broadcast, many of which are participating in the chat. If you could be bothered to type it once, you can copy and paste it if you really want me to see it. But please do not ask me in the middle of a live broadcast to go digging through hundreds of comments looking for yours because you can't be bothered to copy and paste it. Have respect and consideration for everybody else, including me, or don't bother presenting the information at all, and then we won't have a problem. I'm not going to do that. Please don't ask a live content creator to go looking for your previous comment. You might have to leave your comment numerous times before a creator sees it. If you don't like that, then don't participate. It's the same as everybody else, and it's no different for you. All right? So I'm more than happy to read what you have to say, but if I have to go find it, I can't, not during a live show. Absolutely not. Okay? I'm just asking for courtesy. Matt says, I'm not saying anything. I'm just watching and learning. You know, just be respectful, right? If you're going to make comments about the product keys, at least have some evidence. If you don't have the evidence, I don't want to hear it because it's just nonsense. I don't know if you're aware of this. There's no shortage of nonsense online. There's no reason we need to contribute to that. It's well taken care of long before you got here. Talking about product keys, exactly. These people, are they on drugs? I don't know. I'm wondering where the hard drive LED is on this thing. Like, what is supposed to replicate? Like, what's supposed to blink? So I intentionally put the hard drive LED on the other way around because the positive cable looks like it's on the negative side. But maybe the wires were actually wired wrong. So I'm going to flip that. I mean, that hard drive LED must light up something, but I'm not even sure where to look for it. Let me flip the cable around. Because according to the connector, that is positive, but according to the wire, the other side is positive. Oh, yeah, it's blinking right there next to the reset button. There is a little hard drive LED right there that's working correctly. So I don't know, maybe they wired it wrong at the factory. We've got Windows 11 installed, so I don't need the Windows 11 installer USB anymore. And then we'll go ahead and click on, let's see if I can see the whole screen. Click on yes. And then we're going to click on US, yes. And we're going to skip any other keyboard layout. And we're going to say I don't have internet. Enter a username of user. Enter, enter. And I like to turn everything off but location. And again, that's going to correct our date and our time for us. Super easy. Accept. And that's our Windows 11 install. Just that fast. System is absolutely silent. Troll Engine says, so I serviced 3 Z270 and 1 Z590, and so far only one MSI board is showing RAM problems on the board. Martin Hogg said, I was thanking you for last night with Rufus. Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you not making me search for your appreciation. I did something for you. Now go get it. Thank you, Martin. I hope it helps you. Let's see. Van Laren said, great stream. Thanks to Carey and Mara. Midnight here, bedtime. Yeah, bedtime for us too. Well, dinner time. That's going to wrap it up for today, I think. And thank you guys for hanging out with us. Let's see. that is our Windows install completed. Now, and only now, I will plug it into the network, and we're going to go to Windows Update and start grabbing updates and drivers that come automatically from Windows, and we'll install any remaining drivers if there's anything that's not automatically installed, which I never assume these days on a modern motherboard that we're going to be getting a Wi-Fi and network and everything. You know, once I plug this in and get network access, you'll see all these icons here. They start to populate. And then we're going to go to settings. Oh, I forgot. ASRock has this one-step driver install. I want to do that first because I'd rather have these drivers than the ones that come from Windows Update. And I like that I don't have to download a motherboard utility. And this is a unique thing ASRock offers. ASUS started offering like a quick driver download equivalent to this, but you do want to watch and make sure you're not getting Norton or McAfee or some other little bloatware attachment. We just want drivers and drivers only, and it'll auto detect what drivers we need versus what drivers we have, and then tell us here the results of what's missing and what the latest version is for us to grab right now. And this is all free. They're all checked boxes. You see all that? And none of this is nonsense. None of it is Norton or McAfee or system utilities. These are literally drivers, except for the audio. The HD audio driver does include an app that I do want. So yeah, I'm just going to say update everything selected, and it does all the work for me.
I have an email, and I'm an hour late. And I apologize to more time. I've been working on.
You're an hour late.
Because I was working on the other.
Apologize to Mortant for you because you're an hour late.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
It came in an hour ago. I'll have to look.
Oh, the email you're talking about?
Yes.
Oh, Mortant sent an email an hour ago, and you're just now telling me because you were busy working on other channel stuff? I get it. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
I didn't know the hour late was related to the email. I didn't know those two things were associated together. Oh, there he is. Mortant sends an Amazon gift card of $50. He goes, Carey and Mara, here's $50 for the construction fund. Right on. That's from Thomas or Mortant. Thank you again for supporting the channel. Thanks to all our members for supporting us, all those super chats. We appreciate you. And we also appreciate your interaction. And the questions you have, if we can point you in the right direction, if we're going to say, look, your questions are anxiety-based, we can't help you with those, we still appreciate the interaction so that we can provide you with what we hope helps you, right? Not here to put anybody down. We're not here to discourage anybody. But we're also not here to just watch you suffer, okay? If I can help make things a little easier by guiding you and put you on the right path, or what I believe to be the right path, I think you'll realize that sometimes people see things incorrectly. They assume things negatively for no apparent reason. There's some kind of PTSD or something going on that isn't in reality reproducible. And so we're going to call you on it when you do that, because it's not an acceptable behavior. You would not want somebody to do that to you, right? So we want to make sure that we give what we get. We get kindness and consideration, we give it back. We get disrespect, or we get anxiety and things that are completely unjustifiable. We're going to say, look, we're going to make you aware that's not healthy and it's not productive. There's no good that comes from that. We're certainly not going to tell you not to do it, but we are going to say questions like that, you know, involving anxiety, technochondria, we cannot help for that. It's just not what we do. We've never done it. And so, well, the kinds of questions when we ask you, do you have any questions? I'm asking about questions about computers and about any misunderstanding or concern or an actual problem you really have, not somebody else, not something you read about. I get a little frustrated sometimes when somebody will ask a very specific question, but they're unable to answer little details that I want to know. Well, there are certain viewers, and I won't say who they are, And what they do is they go on Reddit forums where somebody's asking for help. They don't know this person. Then they go and they ask a content creator or somebody technically knowledgeable, do you know how to solve this problem? They get the answer, and then they respond in the Reddit conversation that's happening somewhere else as though they came up with this answer all by themselves, so that they can be the hero to help this person asking for help who was never a part of the YouTube channel or the content creator. And it's maddening because many times those people are not being honest with us about why they're asking, nor are they asking the person who's asking the question. They're not helping them by hiding where the answers are coming from. What they should be doing is saying, hey, you know, CareyHolzman answers questions like these all the time on his YouTube channel. You should check it out. But instead, what they do is they ask me as a proxy. They don't tell me they're a proxy. They appear to be suffering the problem themselves, but you can often tell because they can't answer any details. And then when they get the answer, if they get the answer, they go repeat it and type it as a response in Reddit, as though they're the ones who came up with it, not mentioning me and not mentioning the honest truth. It's a disgusting, lowly thing that I see viewers doing to content creators. And when I recognize it, those viewers get banned. If you really want to help somebody and you know the answer, answer it. But if you don't know the answer, do not speak on their behalf. Guide them here. If they come here, they're welcome. If they don't want to, leave them alone. It is crazy what people do to hurt somebody else with the idea that I'm helping this complete stranger. So it's okay to hurt somebody else when you do it. It's so offensive. And if somebody really wants the help and you've pointed out where they can get it, but they can't be bothered to go get it, I'm not helping them. I've had a customer call me, and this happens time and time again. Are you still doing computer repair? Yeah. Oh, good, because a friend of mine, he's having nothing but computer problems, and he was wondering if I knew anybody. And before I gave him your number, I thought I'd call you and ask if it's okay, and just make sure the number works and you're still doing this. Yeah, you're welcome to give him my number. You can call me anytime. I'm happy to help him. I need to talk to him, though, not to you. I got to talk to this person, find out specifically what the problem is, when it started, what the computer is, and no matter what, I can help him. Great. Well, I'm going to give him your number. Expect his call. They never call. Never. Not, well, maybe once. It just doesn't happen. They will whine and complain about their computer. And when they're given a number to call to get somebody to fix it, they won't do it. That's it. Walk away. Job is done. I'm not going to call. Would you call them for me? No, I'm not calling a complete stranger because, hey, do you know Cindy? Yeah, she told me to call you. You're having a computer. I'm not making that call. I'm not that hungry for the work. If you want the help, you've got the number. You reach out, I'll help you. But I'm not going to go asking you if I can work on your computer. It's not the way this works. Walmart does not come over to my house and bring me food and then ask me if I want to buy it. I heard you were hungry. We thought we'd buy you some food. All you got to do is pay us back for it. No. No reputable business works like that. So every time I get these calls, I already know what's going to happen. That person that they're calling on behalf of is never going to call me. It just doesn't work that way. And I'm polite about it. I'll tell them they're welcome to call me. Okay, well, it's good to catch up. Yeah, nice talking to you. Still the same phone number. Still the same guy. Still doing the same work. Still around. Phone calls always welcome. Have a nice day. That's it. Never hear from that person again, and have never heard from the person they're calling for. Not before, not after. It's all a complete waste of time. But they're just trying to help a friend. Yeah, a friend that can't be bothered to help themselves. All right, looks like we're in 4K mode now, so let me change my display settings to 1080. And let me check my power settings because I want to make sure my screen does not go to sleep on me. Oh yeah, and it would have too, wouldn't it? We'll go ahead and change that back to never. Oops. Never. And we'll hit save. There we go. And now we're going to go to Windows Update. If everything goes well, hopefully by either later today or tomorrow, I'll just go get that Windows 10 Pro key for $15.72 from SCD Keys. Once I feel confident that everything's running as it should, I'll activate it. If I have to return the motherboard, I will not get my activation back. That activation stays forever tied to the motherboard. You can spend $150 if you want a key that you can move around. Or you can buy 10 keys as you need them at $15.72. Your choice. Did the date and time get corrected on this already? Didn't even pay attention. Let's see, what does it say? Yeah, you see it already set our date and time for us automatically. Now, right now it's installing a video driver. But yeah, if we go down here and look, it shows it's the 1st of June. It's 4:13 p.m. That matches what we have here in Phoenix. And I did not need to fix that in the BIOS myself because technology has evolved, no longer requiring as much human intervention. And if you stay out of its way, you will have a much more pleasant computer experience. If something were actually happening that you're having trouble with, let us know in the chat. We 100%, we can absolutely help you with any real problems you yourself are actually experiencing. If it's somebody else, they're welcome in. Have them come, we'll help them too. And if it's just your imagination, well, we're going to let you know that. All right? We are going to tell you. If you bring that up, that's your imagination. We cannot help you with that other than make you aware of it. The rest is on you for that. Okay? So we do our best to help everybody equally and evenly with no favoritism. Matt says he's going to start dinner. Bye, everyone. Hey, thanks for hanging out, Matt. Anthony says, why is my computer clock running 1 minute behind? Why does it matter? Is there somewhere you have to be by this? I don't understand. What else does it matter that you really want to make into a big deal? Is that the worst thing? That's the biggest problem you have, is your computer's a minute behind? You must be very important where you've got to be places by the second. There's an old joke that if you have one watch, you know what time it is. But if you have more than one watch, you're never quite sure. They're never exactly the same. I'm just looking to see if there were other questions here. Joseph says, I'm building my first PC soon. Do I need to buy thermal paste for the CPU, or will the cooler I buy have its own? That'll depend on the cooler you buy. And so you would probably want to look at the documentation from the manufacturer of the cooler to see what's included. and it will identify if thermal paste is included or not. They all don't run by the same rules. And we've had coolers that arrived with thermal paste that was no good. So yeah, I don't know. You'll have to look that up and see what it includes. If it's a main brand cooler like Corsair, NZXT, you know, some big name brand, you're probably going to be fine. But if you're buying something cheap, off-brand, really discounted, probably want to plan on providing your own. I usually pick up Noctua MX4, is that what it's called? It's like $8. It's not a big expense. And there's a lot of thermal compound in one of these. Noctua, oh, NTH1. And then what am I mixing in? Is it Arctic Silver MX4? Either one of those. They're under $10. But you might be buying it and you don't need it. So you can just look that up online. It'll tell you what it comes with. And again, if it's a name brand cooler, you'll be fine. But if it's not a name brand cooler and what you're looking is something inexpensive, is it really that inexpensive when you have to buy other things that you don't have to buy for the more expensive ones? Can't answer that. Andy Kane says, great build, Uncle Carey. Thank you, Andy. I like it, and it's really, really quiet. Really quiet. Front fan is spinning, rear fan is spinning, radiator fans are spinning, power supply fan, I guess, is spinning, pump is pumping, RGB is RGBing. Right out of the gate, looks like we built it correctly. We've got BIOS updated, Windows installed, got our updates. You couldn't ask for it to go any smoother, which is what I was hoping for. And again, a very good price on this. I think for the amount that we're getting in exchange for the amount that we're spending, we've got Thunderbolt on here. We've got tons of USB. We've got Wi-Fi. We're able to use this really nice case, which is in great shape, just minus having no USB Type-C up front, but that's because it's an older case. I'm good with all of that. And it's not going to have the issues with closing the panels because we won't overcrowd it with a bunch of unnecessary RGB, which again doesn't mean you have to go without RGB. Just take it down a notch. For crying out loud. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thanks to Mara, as always, for all the work she does in the background with all our channel administration. Thanks to Morton for your Amazon gift card, as well as Bill Denton. Thank you as well for all those super chats and the kindness in the chat room. Thank you all for being a part of our community here. There I am. And all of our members, thank you for supporting us so we can be sponsor free. That's critical for me. LRCX renewed membership today. Thank you for that. David Graham, thank you for your super chat. Same with Samuel Kowalski and Mark Gaines, as always. Paul Vercher, thank you for your super chat. Larry G renewed his membership, now a member 36 months. He says, hello, Carey and chat. I love the build. I think I missed this earlier, but thank you, Larry. And sorry, I'm just now seeing this. Troll McTrollington contributes Trividi, Canadian. He says, this is for old time's sake. Beware the Loch Ness Monster. As you know, that Loch Ness Monster's after one thing. What? What's he after? About Trividi. That's going to wrap it up for us for today. All the links for the parts we've used are in the video notes below this video, along with those discounts I mentioned from our friends over at SCD Keys. They're not corporate keys. If anybody runs into any issues, they have 6 months of full support. They back up everything they sell. There's nothing sketchy about it. And if there's still an issue, reach out to me personally. I can say that because it's very rare anybody ever has to do that. And did you have any final words?
My final word is, that's a really nice PC.
I know.
It's super clean. It's nice to look at.
Wait till I get the NZXT software installed and get the screen configured.
That's great right now. How later it's going.
Look at all the USB ports I got back there.
I know, I'm kind of jealous. Although I do have quite.
And of course, if we want to put a $3,000 graphics card in there, all it's holding us back is $3,000. But I wouldn't. I don't see any need for it for me.
Yeah, I didn't know you.
If I want a game, I got an Xbox. It's way cheaper.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about NVIDIA drivers.
True.
You know what I mean?
Sure. Oh, nice.
Barry says, Mara, it has no dragons.
It doesn't have any dragons, but we can fix that.
Or not.
Or not.
That's what the other build is for.
That's, yeah.
That'll be the dragon build.
Okay.
We'll have that one coming up next, I think, in about a week or two.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it'll be another Intel Ultra build. Is it an Ultra 7, Ultra 9? I can't remember, but
Yeah.
we'll. Maybe that's the one I put the Shrike's cooler on.
Oh,
I never did use it. It's
yeah,
still sitting,
yeah.
$350 cooler just sitting there.
Right.
I think it'll look good in that Cougar
Yeah,
case.
this was a beautiful build.
Do you hear it at all?
I do not.
It's
No.
it's silent,
Silent.
and yet you can see it's running.
Look at it, yeah. I like it a lot.
And wait till we run the performance tests on it. This thing is, it's no slouch.
Right.
All right, and we save money not having to replace power supply. That's
Right.
when you buy good components. That's the thing. You might think you're spending more than you need to, unless you're able to use those components for years and years and years. Whereas the cheaper stuff, for one reason or another, it breaks or it's no longer viable for one reason or another, and you end up having to replace it and buy something twice. Buy it once, cry once, and you'll be very happy with it, more than likely, for many, many years. Good power supply, we can keep using it. 10-year warranty on that power supply. Beautiful case, it's a timeless design. Very practical and elegant at the same time. Not cheap, but look how much more life we get out of it in exchange. Something to consider when you're purchasing parts is more than just price. It's what are you getting back for that, you know, and how long. And maybe you're somebody that gets bored with things easily and will replace it just because. And if you can afford that, I think it's great. But for the rest of us, you might be better off spending a little bit more, and that will save you money in the long run versus buying something less and having to replace it more often. Maybe.
Nice.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.
Thank you, everybody.
Welcome into June as we march on towards the heat of summer here in Phoenix. Oh boy, oh joy. Thank you all. We'll see you very soon. Until next time. Oh, speaking of next time, Monday, tomorrow, members only video, 1 o'clock as always. If you're a member, I hope you'll join us. Now, I can say bye for now.